Hi, I would like to begin this episode by thanking some people like B Nugs, Daniel Christensen, Craig Newton, My Marvelous Year, and Nicholas Pryor. All of these are people who have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us a couple of bucks a month. Really helps us out, supports this show, supports this entire network, and gets you cool stuff in return, we think. Go check it out. That's at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Don't believe his lies!
My name is Gary Butterfield,
My name is Cole Ross.
and you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club pod cult.
And this week, we are talking about Silent Hill, which is a survival horror game developed and published by Konami for the PlayStation in 1999. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Cassie, for executive producing us. Gotta say, I was reluctant to cover Silent Hill, but we're here now, and that's what matters.
You've been resistant to the series for a really long time.
I know, right?
We should have started with 4. You know? It's like we all told you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, that was our
yeah,
strategy for a
Cassie.
while, starting with the most bizarre entry of a series.
Yeah. You do 4 and you work your way outwards.
Yes.
Both sides towards the middle. You know? Yeah. This is an interesting thing for WoF because we've covered a game that is kind of a remake of it.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. Because I when we did Silent Hill 3, not the last Silent Hill game we've done, the second Silent Hill game we did, I played this to prep for it because it was a remake of this. And now they're both ending up on the show.
Yeah. So, but Shattered Memories is its own, really, really different thing. Really, the only the broadest strokes of character names and the fact that you're in a town called Silent Hill, that's really the only similarity. And this is
very different as well.
Yeah.
It's just 1 and 3 that have this pairing.
Yes, and this is weird and foundational. I would say that where Resident Evil was, I think, broadly mechanically influential, I think that it's hard for me to think of a game in horror or like video games that is as broadly aesthetically influential as the original Silent Hill is.
Yeah, it's really up there.
Yeah,
for sure. There would be things that came later that ended up setting a lot of tones, right? Like Amnesia ended up being very influential. Amnesia birthed a whole big bunch of things and such. But yeah, very influential and cool. Like the things of this game, I came away. This is the second time I played it. It's definitely a goodbye for me because I don't like how this game feels that much, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, not at length, but the atmosphere of this is unique. Like the thing with Silent Hill is that like it does one thing that every other horror series doesn't really do, and it's almost the only place to get it. Yeah. So it not doing the other things doesn't really matter that much because if you want this thing, like it does have a unique flavor to it. Yeah. With sequels, it felt like it hung out in that flavor a lot more than Resident Evil did, which was more experimental, often for often for gun survivor reasons. Right. Yeah. This is the OG. This is Harry Mason. He's here on vacation. That meme. He's a father. He's searching for his daughter, Cheryl. She goes missing in the resort town of Silent Hill. Yeah. Seems like a bad resort. Yeah. Yeah. There is a, there's a fairground. There's a couple attractions. There's a lake. I imagine the lake would be nice. Yeah. I just picture it like a nice main lake town, but with horrible secrets and whatnot.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about those. I think that this lays down kind of just some of the basics for why we see the versions of Silent Hill that we do, but the series in general goes into kind of broader strokes of this actual location being a problem as opposed to just the cultists or just this little girl. 7, black hair, short. In a lot of ways, this is a really standard survival horror game, especially for the era. You run around with tank controls, you're navigating spaces, you're solving puzzles, you're fighting monsters. If you're familiar with survival horror games from the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, you're going to feel right at home here.
Yeah. This plays like that. One of the big differences between this game and those games is an emphasis on melee combat. Harry is not in stars. He's just a dude. And that's reflected in the controls. Yeah. And reflected in the combat. The combat is bad. I don't think that Silent Hill figures this out. Like in any of them, like it gets better in 2 and 3. One of the things, because we're doing this right before Resident Evil 8, and I played them back to back. Yeah. And it was making me think about Resident Evil. And one of the weird low-key ways that I think that the combat in this is a little bit worse than that series is that I don't think it has the same intentional tuning in terms of like the resource management. Right. Part of this, like it feels more haphazard than that. Yeah. That like, oh, I have 3 zombies to kill and I have exactly 1.5 zombies worth of bullets. Intentionality between checkpoints. Yes. Like that doesn't feel very intentionally done here, I don't think.
No. Like broadly, Resident Evil, except for like very particular screens, the enemies that are there are the enemies that are there, to the point where like one of the coolest things about the remake of Resident Evil 1 is the fact that, it is kept track of so tightly that a zombie that you kill and don't account for can come back as a more dangerous thing.
Like Chekhov's Crimson Head.
Yeah.
If a zombie is found in Act 1, it must fire by Act 3.
Right.
Or do not fire, as the case may be.
Yeah. Or, you come back and they're replaced with hunters and things like that. You don't have that kind of conservation in this, I think. And something else that makes this a little bit weaker on the combat front is that the spaces are not really designed for combat like RE is.
No.
And a lot of that, like, I would not get rid of the town sequences. I think that is like a cool differentiator for this series. But the fact that you have this big wide open space where enemies can come from any angle and are seemingly infinite does rob them of the ability to tune things as tightly as one would hope that they could.
100%. Yeah. And it's worth like, I want to camp on this just for a second because I don't want to bring it up every time it shows up in the game. But the two things are not disconnected, right? Like I want to think that, like this is something you just play, for the atmosphere and scares and story and puzzles, and you ignore the combat, but it is a real scare killer to go down a lot of empty hallways that are like, kind of the copy paste tool feels like they just kind of spammed in enemies. Like there are most levels of this game will have a long hallway that you run down where enemies kind of either respawn or feel like they effectively respawn, and you do the same encounter a lot. Yeah. And that's tedious on its own, but it also does rob from the atmosphere. Like it feels like an easy fix, like fewer monsters, but make them worse. Yeah. If I'm going down the hallway, one thing's stalking me. Or if I'm going down the street, but it just kind of doesn't do it. So it does rob from the strengths of this game, which is a real bummer. Yeah. Like, and it takes a while for it to do it. Like the actual strengths, the feeling of you being in this atmosphere and anything being able to come get you, and the radio, which is like a genius touch, show up, and it feels great. And then eventually it just becomes like a chore. Like, oh, it's just another monster from the fog. It's just another Bayaki just popped out of the fog. Oh no. Yeah. And it made me feel less scared in the other parts. Yeah. Like for a long time when I played this, I felt like the beginning of the game just had scarier stuff in it. And I was like, oh, the end of the game isn't really scary. Like, no, they actually do scary stuff there. They've just already done it. You know, it ends up being kind of a flat line rather than an escalation in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it does some harm. Like, it made me want someone to do a mod for this. Like, the same way, you know, they modded Soma to bring out the monsters. Do a mod that cuts the monsters like 90%. You know, have me inch forward in the fog, not sure if something's going to jump up, rather than just run in a zigzag.
Right. Yeah. You know, because there's, again, these Byakis are going to come down. Like, no, you just have to run serpentine down this incredibly wide street because area is at 0.2 scale.
It is an incredibly luxuriously huge street.
Silent Hill
has home the locked door and the wide street.
Yeah. You know, I think it just like for like on the combat front, it really could have done with memorable encounters. And I think that what you're describing would lead to that, right? Resident Evil has memorable encounters. You know, there are bosses here, and you remember those because there's just one of those and they're big, but like, you know, there are particular, you remember rooms in this, but because of like the cool haunted house set piece stuff that was happening there.
Yes.
Not because of like a challenge that you were met with that you had to overcome, you know, in this dramatic high stakes kind of last moment kind of thing.
Yeah. And the thing I don't want to have be lost as we spend like most of the rest of the episode, like heaping praise on the atmosphere, is that I do think that they touch each other.
Yes.
You know, like I like this game. I don't, you know, I like Silent Hill 1 and 3. I love Silent Hill 2 because I think it does those highs even better. Yeah. You know, this is something I really like, but not without some caveats, you know, and it's the way that the weaknesses affect the strength. It's not just the presence of the weaknesses.
Yeah. And the weaknesses that we talked about, I think, are more, you know, fundamental than just, oh, the camera is rough and, oh, Harry attacks very slowly and the enemies kind of just run and like there's that wonkiness that is there. I feel like that's baked into the cake with anything from this period, especially anything 3D. The lack of memorable encounters, that feels like a design problem that they didn't quite have a handle on. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a bummer, and we can dispense with that and talk about all the cool stuff. But just know, like, if you haven't played this, it's still worth playing. Like 100%. Like, you know, give this a spin. It's short and good. Just know that there will be a lot of running down endless hallways and failing to hit dogs. Like, dogs attack you, you miss them by a second. It looks like you hit them. They stun lock you for a second. Snarfle at your crotch. Yeah. A lot of little zombie babies come up and run and try to, like, you know, like when you're hanging out with a real baby, every once in a while get like really intimate with your privates on accident because they're exactly that height. You know, that happens to you in this for terror reasons.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of along with the resource stuff, we should say that one survival horror staple that Silent Hill lacks, at least the original in 1, 2, and 3, they would add this misguidedly in 4 in Origins. But Silent Hill does not have a limited inventory. Everything you pick up with abandon. You are not managing space. You are not making trade-offs for what you can carry around, which is good because these are big spaces and backtracking to run to a box. I think would be a bummer in these the way that this is designed.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lack of a thing, not something that they biffed.
Yes,
you know. There are puzzles in this, and these can be just like grabbing a doodad, you know, and knowing where to use it. There are clues and documents where you'll solve riddles. Some of these are real good. Some of them are very simple, but generally, you know, you run the gamut, and they're better than average. Yes, I would say for the riddles and puzzles in this. Yeah. One of the things about this game that both, again, is a double-edged sword for it, is that this is fully 3D rendered. It is not, you know, these beautiful still shots. This is so the camera can move around. You know, so you think about Resident Evil, you think about the camera stuck in the corner, you controlling your person. Here, the camera will have kind of a home base it'll be in, but it will shift slightly as you move, and you can control it if you want to immediately get motion sick. If you want to have the Silent Hill experience of vomiting next to your computer where you're emulating this, start fucking around with the camera.
That is really funny because it didn't bother me, and I'm normally the canary in the coal mine for that.
Yeah, you're the coal in the canary mine for that. But I do not like how swingy the camera feels, and it kind of fighting me a little bit.
Yeah,
when I'm trying to move it, it made me very queasy whenever I tried to fuck with it. And luckily, you don't have to really.
Yeah. Most of the time, it is generally fine. Like if when I find myself adjusting it behind me, it's just because it is giving me the Crash Bandicoot angle when I'm going down a hallway, and I want to not miss a door if I'm running.
Yeah,
is usually the problem. Like auto aim is a thing, so it's not necessarily needed to make sure that you're not wasting ammo on enemies and stuff.
Yeah. These pre-rendered or these non-pre-rendered backgrounds, these 3D backgrounds, are a plus and a minus. Like you get this kind of uncanny Dorito chunk, texture on everything, and the fact that PlayStation 1 can't make straight lines is good. Like the walls kind of shifting and undulating, struggling through space.
This aesthetic is really, home to me, good. Gary. It is home.
Yeah, I really like it. I think that you lose a lot of detail, which is kind of a bummer. Like one of the things I like about when I'm playing even an old Resident Evil game are the little details in the space.
Yeah.
You end up having a lot of fairly anonymous rooms.
Yeah.
In this, like as anonymous as you can get when there's like a caged half corpse, like as a wallpaper. But that's the same caged half corpse that it's in a lot of rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less unique spaces. What I will say, though, is based on our description and based on what you're picturing from a PS1 game, you are probably picturing something that is way less detailed than this actually is. The art design and kind of, I would say, the set design in this, they do sharpen it up quite a bit compared to what you might be, thinking is going to be present here.
It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah.
I think that I would have, like, there's a weird element where, like, part of, and it kind of ties into the hallway fight thing, but the lack of memorable encounters, there are also rooms that will have like maybe like a feature to them to kind of differentiate them.
Yeah.
But more detail would be welcome, I think. And that's not, again, it's a double, to me, it is a double-edged sword.
How
like
dare
you're getting
you.
that, you're getting those jaggy walls, you're getting that kind of feel to it, which is a strength. But it has an anonymizing effect, or at least it did to me.
Yeah, I can come around to that. Yeah, I can meet you there. One of the pluses to this, and normally you wouldn't say this about a technical limitation, but because this move to full 3D was so technologically costly on the aging PS1, this was 1999. People were already turning their attention to what was going to be coming next. They had to find a way to hide the incredibly short draw distance. They weren't able to do big scenes. And so they introduced two of the most, I think, iconic elements of the Silent Hill aesthetic. Fog, which is ever present, and darkness. The fact that in a lot of indoor spaces, you can't really see anything unless your flashlight is on. And like dynamic light and shadow, not necessarily a thing that happened an awful lot on the PlayStation 1, even, as late in this era as this was, right? Generally, on this hardware, things tended to be pretty flat. A lot of PC games, dynamic lighting was, still was still a bullet point headline feature on these things. The fact that they managed to accomplish this in spite of the technical limitations while also establishing such a strong aesthetic is a fucking triumph for 1999.
Yeah, it's really good looking.
Yeah,
like the outdoor areas specifically. I'm bigger into the fog than the darkness in this. The fog looks really unique and cool.
Yeah,
to me, hugely awesome first impression. Nothing else looks like this when you're walking around the town.
Yeah,
I'd seen dark games before, but fog was new.
Yes.
And it's certainly a compromise, but it ended up being, closing your eyes and throwing a dart and hitting a bullseye, or something like it works perfectly.
Yeah.
The other big thing that I think contributes a lot to the terror of this is the radio, which we'll talk about that they introduce. This is, Slender Man rules. Like it gives you electronics act up when monsters are nearby.
Right.
this is really good because you cannot see them. It works in tandem with the darkness and fog. You're walking around, the radio goes off, until you eventually learn that you just have to zigzag
Right.
through everything and you should ignore the radio. Before that fatigue sets in, you're like looking around desperately trying to find what the radio knows is there, but you don't. And it creates this like almost miniature sack of dramatic irony.
Yeah.
Like the radio sees it, but Harry doesn't. And it's really, really great and tense. You don't know which way it's coming. You just know that it is coming. And it does a really good job of creating a feeling of dread with the encounter design early on, or not encounter design, but just the monsters being plopped down.
Yes.
Really, really good stuff. I love that radio.
Yeah.
That is a really good touch.
It is an essential part of the sound design. It is, you can turn it off, but why would you? It doesn't give you any advantage like turning off the flashlight does with certain enemies. And the way that it plays with the soundtrack and with the ambience, and adds kind of to this, sensory overload, if you're in this kind of tight combat area. It is a wonderful and again, inseparable part of the Silent Hill experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Very good.
Another contrast with Resident Evil. Those comparisons are inevitable, so I apologize for kind of hitting on that same note.
The developers set out.
Yeah. They're like, okay, let's try this.
The initial idea was let's make a Resident Evil. So
yeah,
and then it morphed into something different. But the initial idea was let's make a more blockbuster Resident Evil.
Yeah. But in contrast to that, this is not a puzzle box space or like a one puzzle box space that is connected to one half that size and then one half the second one size. That is your final area. This is kind of a whole town with multiple set piece dungeons in it. Obviously, it is not as explorable as one would think. You can only go in certain areas, but again, the first impression and the broad sense of running around this massive abandoned space to these realistic, practical locations. Municipal buildings is where you spend most of your time here, not distant labs and things like that. Again, you have that kind of uncanny kind of feature to it. That is ultimately, mechanically illusory, but a huge part of the experience is, the fact that you have this whole town to yourself, except for the monsters and one or two cultists.
Well, and the other thing that this bit does, this not being a puzzle box, is that this is not about the feeling of empowerment you get from knowing a space. Like I could draw a relatively decent map of the Resident Evil 1 mansion, and I imagine you could too.
Yep.
If you had to. Part of the joy of that game is that being overwhelming at first, but then you slowly unlocking it and then knowing it.
Yeah.
Silent Hill is resistant to that. It doesn't want you to do that because the spaces don't have, like, again, they're more municipally, like the class, the school has as many rooms as a classroom would have. It's not video gamed at all. But the wide, the lack of draw distance, sight distance and the wide streets and everything make you reliant on a map to make you feel lost during it. This is a game where, at least in my experience, I am constantly checking the map.
Yes.
I do not get a sense of where anything is. Really, in these rooms, and part of it is that anonymity I mentioned before. Part of it is because the rooms are just not as detailed. Part of it is I think intentional. To keep you feeling lost, and that it kind of underlines that's intentional with the last level, which I have some feelings about. But like when it starts going into the map proof, area. It
starts. I think that it makes a good decision by kind of always keeping you on the edge of the unknown, kind of ushering you, rushing you along once you have done everything in a space. It wants you to go someplace new. It wants you to feel unmoored. And generally it works.
A different strength. Again, it's going for something different. So like you lose that feeling of like knowing the mansion, which is a really good feeling, and instead get this feeling of like, oh, where am I going to go now? What kind of like the Philaterus society that I'm going to go to, and it's endless, broken doors.
And most spaces are explored twice. You've got the Silent Hill duality here. You have the fog version of Silent Hill, which is still dangerous, but not like outright hostile and nightmarish. And then there's the other world or the Nightmare version, which is what you're probably thinking of when you're thinking of Silent Hill Bloody Grates. Lots of corpses everywhere and, more monsters, things like that. And the other world versions tend to be a little bit more dreamlike, a little bit more symbolic, and definitely more haunted housey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little Nine Inch Nails video-y. Mm-hmm. At times, like it's a little, or what is it? Cenobite. Like it's like real Cenobite hours.
Yeah.
It's time for just man cages on the wall, and you don't want to hear what those are for.
No, you really don't. How could you be comfortable around them?
How could you even guess? Individual, like I agree with you, like individual, bits that they have set up, like when I notice, like, oh man, like instead of behind the wall, there's just a cage, and like if I look real closely, oh, that's a dude.
Yeah,
that stuff is great. Mm-hmm. Really cool.
Just a huge amount of visual variety in this, to my eye. They can't do the real time transitions that you would only get when you get around to like the one or two very specific scenes in Silent Hill 2 and 3, but like they would lean into the full on, the transition happens while you're conscious in Silent Hill Homecoming. Instead, what they end up having is, as you move through a space, it is just designed statically so that everything is kind of just replaced and slowly kind of turns into the Nightmare version, kind of like Disney World or Disneyland. There are never like gates or walls in between the different lands. It's just kind of like, Main Street just slowly segues into Pioneer Mountain Town, right? Yeah. This will slowly segue just by very canny and very intentional set design, which is a very good compromise. Yeah,
it looks good. Mm-hmm. So this there is a lot of kind of surreal space stuff going here. This, unlike like a Resident Evil, where that place definitely exists, even though supernatural kind of things are kind of happening there, sort of, bad science. Yeah. This is explicitly supernatural. This is you've got in the notes here is a pocket dimension that hates you. It is a adversarial location that is going to change to hurt you, like the Escher Labs in Dusk.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I have no idea if anybody else has used this term to describe something, but, in thinking about like, what about this is scary to me? The moment in this where you feel like you have gone to every floor on this hospital, but then at a certain point, there's a fourth floor button in the elevator that wasn't there before. Like Silent Hill is dipping its toe into this ontological horror, I think. That is, very much playing with the mutability of reality in dreamlike spaces, right?
Yeah, and that is a horror thing that has been used a lot, but importantly, like not really in games.
Yes.
Before this, I'll say it so you don't have to. Like that's House of Leaves stuff. This is bigger on the inside than outside.
House of Leaves came out a year after this. Yeah.
Well, and House of Leaves didn't invent it. Let's not get it twisted. Right? This is not that guy's concept. He did not invent that.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we weren't making a claim about causality. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. But you hadn't really seen that in games so much. Yeah. Before that, so it felt very unique. And it's already it's currently a cool trope. Oh, yeah. That is a cool trope. But to see it for the first time, especially like this early on. Huge impact.
Yes. Yeah. Also a huge impact is the fact that this story is very vague and very contradictory. Like we're part of the Dark Souls lore community, etc. Right? Whatever that is, that's a place where we have carved out a corner. The Silent Hill lore community back in the early 2000s on GameFAQs with plot analyses and with fan pages. Things like that. Just this really enthusiastic lore explainers and plot analysis. There were people out there, who really dedicated themselves to trying to solve this mystery, trying to put it together. And it was intentionally made this way. It was not something that was a result of like bad localization. This localization is actually pretty good.
Yeah. Even though there is like a note in the PAL and Japanese version that's like very important.
Yes.
That does not show up in the North American version for no real good reason.
Yeah.
This is something where like, and there are things I don't love about this game that I'm going to talk about because that's watch out for fireballs. I don't want anyone to think I don't like this because I bring up something negative, because that's how internet is. The actual base story of this, I'm not crazy about. Like 3 does it better. And then also like, it's not that interesting.
No.
Like world building and lore, I think is very good in this. You know, the actual story as to what happens in the game, I don't think is that good.
Yeah.
You know, it's this weird mix between narrative and lore. Like the things that happened before I showed up, very cool.
Yes.
The things that the town is capable of, pretty cool. The cult, pretty cool. Like it's an all right cult. The drug subplot, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then what actually happens during the game, I don't think is that cool.
Okay. Yeah.
For me. It's playing in cool spaces.
Yeah. They didn't have their they didn't have their feet under them. Let's say as much as they would have it later. Ultimately what you are doing is being manipulated, right? Just somebody is sending you out to you think you're helping, but you're actually just playing into the bad people's hands. And there's a subversion about who actually wants the bad things to happen. But it is pretty video gamey, actually, where you are looking for somebody, you get a hint, oh, they might be in this level, you go through that level, and then at the end it's like, shit, they may have gone over here. And there's space in between. It's a lot of being led around by the nose, which is a problem, and that is video games. For a lot of them, that is most of video games. A lot of video games do a better job of hiding it than this one does.
Well, and to me, and this is not a fair comparison, it's just to really explicitly Silent Hill 2, right? Like I played that, I picked at this when I was younger, but I never beat it until before we did Silent Hill 3. So playing Silent Hill 2 first doesn't do this any favors. Like that has a much higher level of artfulness to its themes and everything. Like this does not touch my heart.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 broke my heart. It had the atmosphere and then also like punched me in the fucking gut.
Yeah.
And made me sad. I don't care too much about these guys. Like they're cool because I like them because they're in Silent Hill. But I don't relate to these characters. I don't have that feeling of emotional truth.
Yeah.
From this that adds to the horror in Silent Hill 2.
Harry is bland. I think that they make some they make some very kind of like they make some decisions that are very adjacent to what would drive somebody to do a silent protagonist in a game. Just like we really don't want to, by putting you in the viewpoint of an opinionated character, we don't want to color the viewer's impression of what's going on. They specifically like designed Harry to even be visually bland. When they put him together, it is very hard to be invested in his search for his daughter. A lot of the coolest stuff in this, I think that like the cool thing here is Alessa and the way that her nightmare in her childhood has shaped the space around her, and is directly doing this. A lot of that is very obliquely handled. If more of that was fronted and direct, this would be less special. But I think it would ultimately be more accessible. And I think it would kind of stand on its own.
It's the tragedy. Like it's the sad thing that happens in this. And it would have those bits like when they're just few and far between.
Yeah.
Like those bits are really good when you're learning about her and like the nurse whose job it was to keep this festering burn victim alive and all this stuff is pretty cool horror stuff. To me, it lacks an emotional core. That is something that I want from Silent Hill, right? Like the idea of a psychological horror needs to be touch something universal that is almost like an unconventional horror fear.
Yeah.
That's something that I can relate to, but it's not something that I'm used to having touched. And what this does is it is the fear of being trapped in a town with monsters and the fear of spaces not making sense.
Yeah.
But it's not the fear of like, oh man, did I make the right decision with this loved one? It's not the fear of child abandonment or like what it is to be a good father or any of these things that you could hit harder.
Yeah.
And that the series is really known for, but isn't really in the first game.
No.
Like when I first played it, I was really surprised by that's something they eventually leaned into. That in the first game is the atmosphere, they nailed it in one.
Yeah.
The psychological horror, the kind of like deeper, let's really get the player by the gonads horror is something that they would have to learn to do.
Yeah. That they would have to learn to do. They would master it for 2 games and then they would forget how to do it.
Yeah, and keep trying.
Yeah.
And then once every 2 months, a rumor would come around about Kojima getting on the case, and Twitter would go nuts for the rest of eternity.
God.
It just,
Quit.
look at a hallway.
Quit wishing that into existence, please.
It's never, just, rumor, I cannot remember the time where it happened, but I am now full on pissed off whenever I read a video game rumor.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just like, stop it. Fucking stop it. It's so undignified.
Yeah.
Like,
no. And just all of that, abandoned that one studio that people were saying, oh, this is it. Basically, it became like a low key, less harmful version of QAnon. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, that's a little bit what it felt like.
Lowercase QAnon.
Yes. Yeah. No, yeah. Silent Hill 1, like it is pulling from what feels like, more generic, and more broad, kind of influences. It is doing a little bit of Rosemary's Baby. The director of the game, explicitly said like, I don't really like a lot of horror stuff, but I enjoy, I enjoy David Lynch, so that this is them playing with some Lynchian kind of stuff, dream logic, reality kind of things. There's some Lost Highway here, stuff like that. I think that if you're looking for like really good Alessa content, that is going to be Silent Hill 3 because that also gets into really cool ideas of like bodily autonomy.
Yeah. Again, like a horror area that I'm not used to having punched.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that this is not scary. It's just really surprising how like this is a revolutionary video game, but how conventional it can be as a horror story.
Yeah.
Outside of that context.
It's not quite a tricycle, but it's training wheels before they get on the motorcycle. Yeah.
They eventually figure it out.
Yes.
Which is real good. And I don't really hold it against this game. It's just a weird thing where when I'm playing it and like I think I have the story down in my head, it doesn't feel that the second time I played it, it doesn't feel that obscure to me.
Yeah.
What's there is a little bit like, okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And then there's tons of things they don't answer in this that are all filled in later that are more compelling questions but aren't in this game. Right? So like we know about the cult, we know about the drugs, we know about Alessa. The reason why this town is this like nexus of evil and things, that's stuff they explored later is my understanding.
Yeah.
Here it's just kind of like it just is, which is cool. I'm not saying I wanted the explanation, but that is a blank space where you would be able to put a higher order psychological terror, I feel like.
Yeah.
And here it's a question mark.
Yeah. There are a ton of occult references. There's, author names, just huge amounts of allusions in here. Just really just stuff for people to just really gobble up if you really like, Manichean cult kind of stuff or Kabbalah angels, the Olympian spirits and things like that. You're going to get a good amount of this. It is hilarious now that I'm a little bit, wider read in horror books kind of stuff to open up a map in this and look at all the street names. Like, you fuckers.
It's immensely silly.
It's very silly.
It's a cool fun Easter egg in this thing that's supposed to scare the crap out of me. I do. Going down Bachman Street, I do be scared.
I do like that they have Bachman Street because one of the Bachman books King wrote, The Regulators, is extremely Silent Hilly. To the point where like, in here you have monsters that are formed by like pictures in the book that this, kid read. Like the Regulators, like there are monsters that are like that the kid drew that came into existence because he's demon possessed. Like, it's not a great book, but like if you're looking for a fun, trashy read, The Regulators is probably one of the most explicitly Silent Hill things that I've read that feels like a direct antecedent to this.
And if it sounds cool, but you don't have time to read the book, you can just listen to the Warren G song that summarizes it.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
oh God. I still think the game looks good. You know, that is going to be, you know, you might take a look at a screenshot of this and think, Cole, this is just nostalgia. This is just rose-colored glasses. You know, I think that the art direction is, you know, especially good, still holds up, and that PS1 crappiness, you know, this is one of the few games on that system and from this era where that has aged like wine, where the rest of it aged like milk. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. It definitely looks good. It looks, especially now that there's a renaissance in this kind of look.
Yes.
You know, like now that there are, you know, dozens and dozens of indie devs like chasing this specific aesthetic, like this still holds up to modern games doing that.
This, aside from some of the control stuff, this would not be a difficult one for you to go back to emulate.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. The soundtrack in this is very it works for what it is. I'm reading your notes, which are your opinion, not mine, so it's difficult. I just want to move us along because you're the last person who said something. But
Sorry.
I think it's really appropriate.
Yeah.
It's doing Silent Hill stuff where it's like rusted machinery, or like a shoe stuck in a washing machine over rusted machinery, kind of stuff. That really, really fits for me. I cannot imagine in a million years like putting on an ambient track from this outside of the game, but I do think it scores the game really well.
I do it, bud. Yeah.
It's just screeching machinery.
But it's you know, to my ear, like, you know, they would nail the soundtracks later because they would get more comfortable leaning into pop kind of songs mixed in with the like kind of the industrial, like this particular atmospheric kind of mix that Akira Yamaoka does, where it is, you know, explicitly aping Angelo Badalamenti's Twin Peaks kind of stuff, mixed with like really dorky like synth pop kind of song kind of deals. A lot of
whenever a guitar shows up on one of these, I feels like the dorkiest thing in the world to me. Like not in a bad way necessarily.
Yeah.
But in the opening theme, that guitar is so fucking dorky. not the beginning part with the like
the
mandolin, when the actual guitar comes on.
Yeah.
Very nerdy.
It's not as nerdy as the Silent Hill 2 theme of lore, I think is what it is, where it just like breaks down for a couple of measures into a James Bond theme song.
Yeah, it's real. Like good guitars are fun, guys. But, come on.
But yeah, the industrial stuff. Just again, it is a really good aesthetic mix. I like the taste that went into it.
There are certain songs in this that really, really work better for me than other ones in terms of just feeling like they're putting pressure on me. You know, a lot of them come later in the game, which is kind of a bummer because that's when I'm like just zigzagging from point A to point B. But in a vacuum, like in an individual still moment where I'm not running, they add a sense of tension very well.
Yeah. Development on this began in 1996. The goal was to, you know, kind of like Capcom did with Resident Evil, make a game that would play well in the West, right? Try and get into that space. However, they didn't set it up for success. Team Silence, the original Miyazaki touch to, you know, Team Silent. People say like, oh, get Team Silent back on it. Well, no, there was never like a Team Silent. It was just like a bunch of people who were rejected from other teams at Konami. They're
hard to work with. They didn't like them.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like a nightmare.
It does.
Like, when you're young, you might hear something like that and you're like, cool, Mavericks. You know? And then as you get older, you're like, oh, if nobody likes working with you, it's probably for a really good reason.
Yeah. Like if you're
probably a real dick.
If you're on a date with somebody who talks about all their rough breakups, you know, that's
exactly.
a sign. Yeah.
What's the common denominator there?
Yeah.
You know, like a weird thing when you get older where you're like, oh no, you know, the most important part of a job is that people want to work with you.
Yeah.
You know, and if nobody wants to work with you and you put all those people together, it's a reality show. It's like Bad Dev Island. It's not like a recipe for success. Weirdly worked, but it's like who would have guessed? This is 100 monkeys on 100 typewriters stuff.
Yep.
You know, so because they had this team of the Expendables here, the original scope was smaller. They wanted to make a 2D game initially, but the team just kind of started going rogue on their own, making their own thing. They're, almost like a a Skunkworks thing, almost like we're on our own because no one's paying attention to us because nobody likes us. Let's do what we can.
Yeah,
like
let's
a
take
Mega
our
Man 2
freedom.
story almost.
Yeah, I'm gonna, they're about to fire us anyway, so we might as well try and make something that is ours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was directed by Keiichiro Toyama, who kind of went on to make Siren, went on to make Gravity Rush. This is his first effort. He never really directed a game before. He was never a lead, and he wasn't necessarily a fan of horror movies, but he did like The Occult, and he did like David Lynch. There are articles that you can go and read about like the weird popularity that specifically Twin Peaks had over in Japan, and you can see like that particular strange cultural synthesis delivered us a lot of things, but especially this.
Yeah. The David Lynch largely comes through like not only the dream stuff, but also the kind of people acting uncannily.
Yes.
Thing. It's a very different flavor of that than is in Resident Evil, which is also uncanny, but that's amateurish. This is uncanny, but does not feel amateurish.
Right.
In terms of that.
Yeah.
So, he didn't love horror, but he also did a lot of research on Western horror and what Western towns were like in order to make a psychological horror game about the fear of the unknown.
And, we talk about this, other times when Silent Hill comes up, but what makes this series special or, set it apart early on was that it was, a Japanese team reinterpreting Western horror through their own lens, right? That retranslation is what created a lot of things that were very special about this. Second Dark Souls comparison of the day, but that is something that makes Dark Souls real cool. Was Miyazaki's early fascination with Dungeons and Dragons books that he couldn't read, but so he just ended up filling in details on his own. That kind of synthesis is cool and good. That cross pollination, I think, has resulted in some very great art.
Yeah, agreed. The artist Takayoshi Sato was important to the team. He helped kind of fix the plot. He helped the older teammates understand 3D modeling so they can do that. And also single-handedly created all of the CG cutscenes.
Yeah.
Because otherwise Konami would not give him credit.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
So,
they didn't want him to lead this because he was too young. He threatened to withhold his knowledge from the team. Just basically, I'll scuttle this. I will scuttle this entire project if you don't give me credit. Which my gut is to say, yeah, you deserve credit. Like withhold your labor if they're not going to credit you, please. He sacrificed greatly for this. He lived at the studio basically for 2.5 years, modeling during the day and then just taking over the entire studio's worth of computers and rendering at night. And the cutscenes are really good in this. Yeah. They're short, but they're impactful. They're
very well directed.
Yes. Yeah. Just a very good cinematic eye. But Konami took the credit away anyway. And he formed his own external CG studio to work on sequels and stuff.
It's so wild looking at development of older games because we're kind of all klepek pilled into thinking that, studio abuses are new. New and because of access, like Klepek tends to focus on Western studios doing that. We all find out when somebody's crunching their people to death.
Yes.
But it's been going on forever. Every big studio basically did it. Every time we go back to one of these old games and read about the development, something like clangs on my eyes with 2021 eyes where I'm like, Jesus Christ, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Wild.
That's a horrible human rights abuse. Even if he's just doing it voluntarily, but it's like, it's not great.
No.
In terms of work-life balance or health. And it's always been part of the water, no matter where you are or when you are.
Go back and listen to our episode about Chrono Trigger, right? Where people in the dev room and that were talking about like, oh, my wife will be happy to have me back. I hope my kids still recognize me.
I haven't seen my kids in years. I hope you like my game. Kind
of seems like our corporate culture over here is kind of fucked. But it's fucked everywhere right now. Oh, shit. No.
God damn it. What do we do? you know?
Yeah.
Very bleak.
Yeah. Sato is a pro Twitter follow, by the way. He had a very fun interaction earlier on. Somebody had asked him, like, okay, settle this for me. The white stuff that is falling at Silent Hill, is that snow or is that ash? And he said, yeah, it's snow. And then somebody came in and said, actually, no, it's ash because they based the town on Centralia, Pennsylvania with its, he's like, hey, dude, I'm the actual art designer for Silent Hill. Somebody tried to Silent Hill explain Silent Hill using the movie lore to Sato.
It's in a certain film.
Yeah.
It's you're never gonna, like, one of the things with the internet is you're always gonna find people who treat every single thing that they see as like a riddle to solve.
Yeah.
Like, how do I be right about this and solve the equation? Even when there are things that are opinion based or things that are specifically ambiguous, or things that are set in stone from a set of authority like this. Got to get those good boy points by being jumping on the trivia grenade.
Yep.
And oh, somebody almost said something wrong and I know the knowledge. This is, everyone's going to clap when I leave this encounter. This is absolutely ridiculous. So the early showings of this at E3 made Konami perk up and give some more resources to it.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, this maybe will be a hit. They included a demo for it in Metal Gear Solid, which was obviously a huge hit and probably did a lot of work for this.
It did. I still remember seeing the like they had an advertisement for Silent Hill on the manual of Metal Gear Solid. For some reason, my copy of it didn't have a demo, even though I got it at launch. But yeah, there was
weird.
there was Sybil on the back of the back of the manual, and it said "Welcome to Hell." was the tagline, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks cool. I'm going to play this. I'm going to rent this in a year and be too scared to touch it again for 2 years." Yeah.
Hell, baby coal in hell.
Yeah. The soundtrack was composed by Akira Yamaoka. We almost didn't get him on this. He joined after the original composer left. As we said, he mixed the Twin Peaks sound with some industrial stuff. He, just complementing the visual design. The soundtrack was so weird and so out of the ordinary that when they showed the game to executives, they thought that the sound was bugging, and they had to get Yamaoka in there to like explicitly explain why he made the decisions he made. Yeah,
it is definitely unusual.
Yeah,
for sure. Originally, the plan was to have a second playable character. People think that it was probably going to be Sybil. This was cut out, but there are some holdover items in the code. Like certain things you can walk up to it and it can be like, I can't use this, or otherwise imply that another character could use this.
Yeah.
So like different, either like holes to squeeze through or things to pick up, things like that.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Different versions had content changes. You mentioned that note that doesn't appear in the American version. We'll make a note of that when we get there. Specifically, only the U.S. version has a particular enemy in this. The child demons, the gray children. Those didn't pass muster in Japan and Europe. And instead they were replaced with the Mumblers, an enemy that only appears in a couple of places in the American version, because it didn't look good over there to be killing kids.
You do murder a lot of kids in this.
Yes.
Like they're evil kids, but if we're killing dogs because they're evil, we can kill kids because they're evil.
Yeah. Everybody's got to go. Yeah.
This is really well received when it came out. Sold really well. There was a PlayStation Greatest Hit version of it. And this is a long-running series of after, the third one, like I think pretty universally understood to have diminishing returns. On this. This is a weird, there is something when I think about the Silent Hill series that makes me sad because it is a lot of developers and fans chasing a high point. Yep. It's like the Royal Tenenbaums of, it's peaked. Yeah. And they're still trying to get that back.
No, like a lot of the good stuff about this is in the water now. I think that we've kind of grown beyond the need for an official Silent Hill. Like PT looks cool, and that's a real bummer that we didn't get that. I think that the particular mix, you can take or leave Kojima. That'll be divisive, but Guillermo del Toro and what's his name?
Junji
Junji Ito. Like that, like I would have loved to have seen that collaboration. Come on, please.
Yeah, they're both creators that are great.
Yeah. You know, like that is an absolute shame. I do not, you nailed it before. There's an indignity to jumping after each and every shadow. Because I think it implies that like, no, like only Silent Hill can give us this thing that we want. Broaden your horizon, open the aperture. There's a lot of really good horror out there.
Yeah, that are engaging with these tropes that you love, and this series stopped nailing those.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Silent Hill 2, impeccable masterpiece.
Yep.
You know, the best game in the series. I feel comfortable saying, having only played 4 of the games in the series. 3, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the rest.
Yeah.
You know, like varying degrees of like compromises you'll be making to try to capture this thing and get these tropes.
Yes.
You and I are a little split on Shattered Memories. I didn't think that was like a death march or anything, but just wasn't that exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, it wasn't this, it wasn't as good as this, it wasn't as good as 2, it wasn't as good as 3. Like it's still, various methadones kind of, when instead everyone should just get real into the Amnesia games.
Yeah.
Play Penumbra. That has low draw distances. It's scary. It has monsters coming out and they're naked. There's a psychosexual element.
Yeah.
The third game has it's hanging dong left and right.
just right there. Boom. Eye level. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you want, right? Like it's got to be some weird kind of mix up of sex and like, and terror.
Yeah.
Bam. Get it somewhere else.
Yeah. No, it's just, I also would like for things to be as good and, to reach the high heights of this series between the years of 1999 and 2003. But, it's just not going to be. Would I be happy to be proved wrong? Yeah, absolutely. It's just unlikely. I don't know that it's going to happen.
It's been 18 years.
Yeah.
Like people have lived and died. Like in that time, the people who were born when Silent Hill 3 came out are now adults, and you're still waiting for like a good Silent Hill game to pop out. Just give up the totem quality of that name.
Yep.
Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
It is specifically like you're treating it like a symbol as opposed to like it is pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. It just, it is annoying to see people jumping at every shadow about it.
Have you played Pathologic? Silent Hill fans?
Yeah, play Pathologic.
There's just a lot of stuff out there for you.
Play Outlast. Like Outlast 2 is fucking amazing.
You nerds.
Yeah.
I will bully you into giving up on Silent Hill. Yeah.
Go on itch. Check the horror tab. There's really good stuff. Check out the glass staircase.
Yeah. Play The Last Door, fools. Even if the other thing too that I keep thinking about with the rumors around this is that like I can almost like I'm not a Kojima liker, like surprise, surprise, but I would be interested in him doing a horror game, in a general sense.
Yeah.
I think that I think he's a really bad fit for Silent Hill. I think the things that are cool about Silent Hill are things he's really bad at.
Yeah.
But him just doing a horror game would be cool. So rather than just trying to wish cast like, oh man, it's Kojima doing Silent Horror or Silent Hill, just be like, man, it would be cool if they let that guy have free reign to make a horror game.
Yeah. Let it be.
My understanding is there are Death Stranding things that are scary. Like let him lean into that, but don't. It's not going to be like this. It's not going to be. Yeah. It's not going to feel the way you're trying to feel.
No, and in fact, anybody that you put. It's kind of like how like Half-Life 3 was never developed. It's at Valve because nobody wanted. It was an ugly baby, right? Nobody wanted to be caught holding it because you're not going to make anybody happy. Nobody will be satisfied. And in fact, any creator that you give this dire duty is damned to put all of their love and care into something that at best is going to like split people. It's
people get them screamed at.
Yeah.
Who wants death threats?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Yep. Who wants to hire security? Yeah.
When you portray yourself as the least reasonable or one of the least reasonable fandoms, you're going to get like you're not making an attractive proposition.
Yeah, you're going to make it so people don't want to make games for you because it's just not worth the concern, right? And even setting aside the safety condition, which you shouldn't do, but even that aside, putting them and saying, all right, make something in the Silent Hill box. I don't know, if they're good creators, they probably would be able to make something cool outside of this, maybe playing with some of the same elements, but like, I don't know, like don't handcuff them to an IP just because there's some fans who, you know, impart totemic value, and because there are executives who think, okay, it's time for that name to come back. It is an illogical and, you know, cart before the horse kind of approach to this to the extreme, I would say. So
the names don't matter as much as like this also applies to Chrono Break people.
Yep.
You know, people probably are coming up with their own boxes, you know, and just something coming out and just having that name on it. Like, I don't know. It feels very like kiddie.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like a very immature attitude.
Yeah. You know, and if there is like credibility that needs to be flexed on here, I doubt you're going to find a bigger Silent Hill fan than me. You know, you were probably going to find them, but I feel very comfortable saying, like, I have played all of these. I have found the good in them, and I've been frustrated with the later ones. I have been along for every heartbreak that you have been along with, and maybe more. It's time to say goodbye. You know, it's time to say goodbye.
All good things end.
Yep.
So, on that note.
So let's get into it. Let's do this intro that upset me greatly when I first rented this.
What's interesting in this game that other games don't do is that the sizzle reel, like the attract mode, has unique content in it. It's
does.
not just a sizzle reel. It shows you crashing the car and stuff.
Yep.
You know, if you just skip past that, I kind of like the just like you wake up in a crashed car.
Yeah.
Finding your daughter gone, like I kind of like that better, but it's not actually the story.
No. You know, you've got Harry finding the baby. You've got a picture of a weirdly like sexualized Alessa. We're not going to meet Alessa for a very long time.
Halloween costume.
Can I get something in a
all
sec?
the rage in 2021. The sexy Alessa section at Spirit Halloween is fucking just aisles and aisles.
But you know, Harry taking his daughter on vacation to their favorite spot after his wife had died, and then in the fog, a young woman steps out in front of the car, and then they crash, and then he wakes up in the town covered in fog, and his daughter is gone.
Yep, gone daughter. She got witched. The town is empty. You know, again, suspiciously wide streets, and you hear some footsteps. That draw you close, and you see Cheryl through the fog. And as you run towards her, she runs away, bringing you into an alley.
Yeah, I love this alley. I love the camera angles that you get, like that big high up crane. I love the way that the way that the alley winds makes no sense. No building would be shaped like this.
No, it's like a key.
Yep.
It's like the teeth of a key. That camera angle of it going up high, I wish that happened more later in the game.
Agreed.
Like, that is so cool, and it's such a neat thing you can only do by not having a fixed perspective. It's great.
Well, I mean, the way that it pulls,
it's very disorienting.
It's almost the Ari Aster shot, like when it pulls up and then follows you, like the world kind of turns upside down, kind of like at this very particular moment when you cross under the camera and the air horns start. And you're walking past the mystery carcass.
Yep. Really good.
Yeah.
There's a great moment. It gets darker and darker. The sirens get louder and louder. And you pull out your lighter as a sense of, to see. And you find this broken wheelchair. The wheel is still spinning, implying that somebody had just done a fun race. And there is a gurney there that's covered with blood. There's blood on the ground, like medical Nine Inch Nails video stuff, which I don't necessarily say derisively. It's just what those two things have in common.
Yeah.
Start showing up and, are creeping their way in a little bit.
Yeah. The industrial music starts. It is unclear. Why I love that choice is it is unclear if this is diegetic or not. Like, this could literally be, the sound of weeping machinery in the walls that, are being exposed to be this grating, right? To be far more mechanical than it should be, right? You have this bloody fencing, and it dead ends into this body that is crucified on barbed wire. just completely like flayed open. And Harry's like, what the hell? Who would do this? And when you turn around, there's nowhere to go. And little demon kids lurch out and attack you. They have little knives. You can try and run, but the fence behind you is clear. Like there's a fence blocking you. There's no choice but to be hugged to death by these kids.
It being a fence is so good, like as opposed to being a door that is locked, because it's like it could not have existed before.
Nope.
You know, it's a really good choice.
Yeah,
like somebody built this in the margins between moments.
Yeah, you know,
it's very good. The kids murder you. They have to murder you. And you wake up in a diner.
Yeah.
And Sybil is here, your kind of sexy cop.
Yeah.
Sexually portrayed a little bit, but not super, you know.
Yeah. Not as sexualized as in the movie when she's played by Laurie Holden.
Yeah. They really go out of their way there.
Yeah.
She's wearing a sexy cop.
Yeah. A lot more leather than a cop would. Even a motorcycle cop would have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a flexible material. Yeah, she asked you what happened, and you're like, I don't know. I'm a tourist, and she's not from Silent Hill,
right?
Like she came over as well. This is like people sending their knights into Baltaria.
Yes,
basically.
Yeah,
she's from Brahms, the boy, the next boy over, the next town.
Yeah. Silent Hill has a reputation that somebody from Brahms would have would have reason to know, but she she can't explain why it's foggy, why there's nobody here, and why there's monsters in danger about. She hasn't seen Cheryl. Harry is the only other person that she's run into.
Yeah. So she says she's going to call for reinforcements, and Harry's like, hey, I'm going to go look for Cheryl. Sybil tries to stop you, but you're like, no, it's my daughter. So she gives you a gun. And that's where CinemaSins number one. Would a cop do that? Ding. But yeah, it is pretty funny.
Yeah. Here, take my sidearm, civilian.
If you ask a cop for their gun, they have to give it to you, or else they're a cop.
It's posse comitatus act. Or else they're a cop. You would think they would have written that law to be far more clear than that.
No, yeah, it's really strange. The Magna Carta actually ensures that.
There's a little bit of foreshadowing or dramatic irony here. She says, before you pull that trigger, know who you're shooting, which is good advice for somebody with a gun. I would say don't point that at something you don't want to kill. And she says, don't do it if you don't have to, and don't go blasting me by mistake. Got it. Assuring you of your genre savvy that you're going to be drawing that gun on her.
Yeah. Yep. We have control now. You save through little pads of paper in this. So there's one of these on the counter next to a flashlight and a map. The idea is that you're instead of a typewriter where you're writing your story, you're documenting the letters, just by hand, documenting what's happening by hand.
Harry is a writer by trade. And so in Silent Hill 3, spoilers for that, but when Heather is taking the car ride to Silent Hill with Douglas, what she is reading is the notes that he took when he was here. As part of this big folio that he was putting together into like an expose on the cult.
No, you also get your first weapon here. You get a kitchen knife. It's lame. It's a bad weapon.
It's a bad weapon.
There is a surprising amount of variety in like the reaches and wind up times of weapons in this game for all of them to suck. Like, none of them feel real good. Yeah. Like you can get like the ultra weapons and they're fine. Like they're more efficacious.
Yeah.
But they're all little timing exercises in a way that the enemies and encounters don't support.
Right.
When it's one enemy on one, like a single dog is going to run at me, it's pretty cool.
Yes.
To try to time my knife slash or my pipe hit. The second there are two enemies, it's all over.
Yep.
It's a big dumb clusterfuck where you're just going to get beat the shit out of.
Something that is different about this that I probably should have made a note about, but it's important here, especially talking about melee. Your attacks change depending on how long you hold the button and whether or not you're moving. Unlike Resident Evil, you can move when you have a weapon readied here.
Yeah,
and
certain weapons.
Yeah, like the bigger ones or like the rifle, no, but most other stuff you can. Which, like there's a whole boss that is built around, okay, you need to back up from this thing while you have the weapon ready in order to goad it into a thing. With melee weapons, if you attack while you're walking, you will do wide swings that do a little bit less damage, but will hit and possibly knock down more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go to leave the diner, a radio draws you over to it, starts emitting static, and an enemy called an air screamer bursts through the door. These are basically little dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. To me, they reminded me of the little dinosaurs in the mist.
Yeah. Yeah.
For obvious reasons, that burst through a window in the fog.
Well, yeah.
Which is what they do.
Mm-hmm. And also, like those were present in the story. I definitely think somebody on the team had read The Mist, or at least was aware of it. This was before the movie, obviously, but yeah, it's like a flying pteranodon, a little bit like a Byakuya. These are reminiscent of illustrations from Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. This is a book that Alessa would have read. We're not going to meet Alessa, but a lot of these monsters, not as much as in the later games in the series where there's like a particular psychological symbolism, to most of these. But here, we are in Alessa's world, and these monsters are formed by either her own fears of, people or dogs or things she was fascinated with, specifically these, creatures from these books that she read, or she really loves insects. Yeah.
Yeah. So outside, we decided to go back and check out that alley they were in, which is off of Finney Street. This is the northernmost cross street in the district. And when we get there, we run into a new enemy, these groaners, and these skinless dogs that run and jump at you. Yeah. Because Alessa was terrified of dogs. This Alessa stuff is not stuff that you're getting at this point in the game.
No.
It is a reveal later in the game for you to draw the connection between the things that you're fighting and the things in Alessa's room.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. The alley dead ends. You can't get as far as you were before. There's just a bunch of rubble. However, there's a page from Cheryl's sketchbook that just says to school. And it's like, okay, well, that must be Midwich Elementary. Why she ran away from her father and instead went to the school is unexplained, but kids panic. So we got to go there.
Yeah. For lack of a better lead.
Yes.
You end up going to a lot of places for this for kind of undermotivated reasons, which lends to that kind of video gamey feeling.
Yeah.
Being sent on quest. And that's even before you're explicitly just being told by an evil witch, hey, go here and fight these monsters for me.
Yep.
This is also where you find the steel pipe, which to me is the signature weapon of this game, even though you get way better weapons.
Signature weapon of the series.
Thing I most associate. Yeah, yep. This is the thing I most associate with the game. It's like the wrench in System Shock, basically.
Yeah. And something cool about the city is revealed to you as you try and take the most direct path to get to Midwich Elementary. Is that your direct paths are blocked by these massive chasms, just huge gouges taken out of the street. So you end up having to take more circuitous paths. In fact, all of the paths are blocked. But at one of them, there's a sketchbook page that says Doghouse 11th Street. And damned if out in front of one of these houses, there isn't a doghouse with a key taped into it.
Yes. This is the source of the very famous meme. I don't see any dogs around, where the dog is about to bite the back of Harry's head.
Yep, just flying through the air, just airborne, frozen.
Yeah, just air butting your brains out. So we get there. There's kind of this little safe room, bit where we can get near the back door. Yeah. Here or inside this house, we can get some healing items. There are two of them in this. There's a health drink and first aid kit. This is not integrated into the combat at all. You just pause and use them.
Yeah.
It does not take time.
There are three. There's the ampule as well, the kind of the super healing item.
I forgot about the ampule. They integrate those into the frankly baffling design of the end boss. where to survive the hits, you have to heal while being hit.
Yep.
One of the weirdest choices I've ever seen in a video game. It doesn't damn the game or anything like that, but it's fucking dumb.
It is a spectacularly bad boss fight at the end of this.
It's very funny.
Yeah,
I somehow forgot about how bad it was. I think that in my head, I had put in the end boss from Silent Hill 3.
Right.
Here when I was on my way there, and I got there and I was like, oh fuck, this thing.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to
okay.
I've got to chug Pedialyte while I'm being hit with Sith Lord lightning. Okay.
Yeah. Hey kids, embrace the psychological terror of drinking a fucking Gatorade while being electrocuted.
Yeah.
My deepest fear is drinking Gatorade while being electrocuted. Oh shit. This does get me.
Oh gosh. What is in Silent Hill? Only what you bring with you. Carnation instant breakfast in a car battery. Oh god. I love health drink.
Health drink.
The way forward, there's a back door, but it is locked. Kind of the first of these, strange occult, just roadblocks that are being put here. We need the keys for the eclipse on these three locks. And there's a map that gives us, kind of three particular call outs to go and grab the doodads. That'll take you to different set pieces. This is cool because you're seeing new stuff.
Keys are named after Wizard of Oz characters. Instead of chests or anything like that, it's directly lifting that from Resident Evil.
Yes. Yeah. Also, I love running around the towns because I love the fake brand names. I love the stores that are just slightly off brand. Incredibly good fake brand names and stuff present here.
I like that in any video game.
Of course.
We're recording about Resident Evil 8 next week, and they have the half-whole flower. I love that. It has a big vote yes, no on Prop 23 energy. it's a horrible typo. We get there. We go and collect the doodads. We open the padlocks up in the backyard. It goes dark, and that siren comes on again. And we turn on our flashlight because we're going to go to the school, but we're going in at kind of a nighttime. Into Midwich Elementary.
Yes, kind of like it's implied. I like what I like about this. The darkness is coming, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go into Midwich, almost by way of taking shelter a little bit. Okay, like this building is going to be safe. There might be people there. No, in fact, it is far worse than being outside. Yeah.
Spooky.
Your goal here in this, sorry, I love this school. One of my favorite things about this is modeled after the school that they used as the shooting location for Kindergarten Cop.
It's in Astoria. I've been to that school.
You have? You've been to Midwich?
Yeah,
nice.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was a Kindergarten Cop school. But that's the third pillar in the Oregon Film Museum in Astoria, along with some Gus Van Sant movie and Goonies.
Nice. Astoria, weird town. I've never been there, but just it does not seem. It seems like it is a town entirely defined by those Hollywood connections. Is that fair?
What was that?
Is that fair to say it is defined?
Definitely from the outside.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the people who live there don't think that.
Yeah, the
people
would.
who own the Goonies house are real cranky about it.
It's kind of like the people who own the Walter White house are tired of having the pizzas thrown up there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It is plastered with signs that are real people live here, respect us.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is fair.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. It also looks a lot to me, it looks like the school from the PlayStation Persona game.
Oh, yeah.
That I also played around this time, has a similar layout to this. There is a central courtyard here where they have a clock tower. And our goal here is to get into that. There are two medallions missing, the sun and the moon medallion.
Yes.
And we're going to spend a lot of time just kind of going from room to room. In this, we're going to talk about the important parts, but you do just spend a lot of time going back and forth.
Yes.
Between these things, dealing with the gray children, which are knife-wielding little kids. These are the guys who killed you in the intro.
Yes.
And they're jerks.
They can initiate a grab from much further away than you think.
Yeah.
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 They'll hold you. It is not as explicit as later on. Like the nurses like explicitly do this, where one will hold you so another one can come up and slash you with a knife. But that will end up happening here. You will end up kind of getting stun locked in this. Yeah.
This whole school is lousy with babies, kids.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Just the Lord of the Flies. Yeah. So, and these great children are the exclusive ones to the American version here. The reception area has a bunch of clues that are given to you. They're kind of like they list a time on the clock. And then, a poem. So like, alchemy laboratory, gold in an old man's palm, the future in his fist, exchange for sage's water. All of these end up being really good clues, but the important thing is that there is an order that you have to do these, and the next one will not open up until you seat the medallion that you find. That you find as a result of this to kind of like advance the world state. So if you think that you're going to go do all of these, but without running back to the clock tower, that doesn't happen, and that's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. It's also the disparity in what the fact that these being clues for riddles is pretty high. Like, that alchemy thing is not really a riddle. Like that's just you stick something on something.
Yeah.
Whereas the piano one is an infamous puzzle, and it's like a little logic grid thing. Here.
Yeah.
So the second one, 12 noon, a place for songs and sound. A silver guidepost is untapped in lost tongues, awakening at the ordained order. You do a logic grid. And then 5, darkness that brings the choking heat. Flames render the silence, awakening the hungry beast. Open time's door to beckon prey.
Yeah.
Which is your basement.
Yeah. Is that like you restart the boiler and then you'll beckon the prey. Like you'll actually get the monster that holds sway over this place. In addition to the Grey Children, you will also find these. I mean, it's hard to find them scary because of the squeaky sound they make, but they are little shadow children that you initially think, okay, can they hurt me? No, not when they're small. When they're bigger, they can. But they will like run away from you, make a squeak noise, and then disappear entirely.
Yeah, and you can kill them if you like for sport. They will go down if you hit them with a pipe. There's lots of little audio scares that pop up in this, like rooms where there is just a little spooky sound or a spooky like little event. So like the second floor boys bathroom that you go into, you can hear a kid crying, but you can't see the kid. It's just a spooky sound.
Yeah. You have to go to the chemistry lab and use some hydrochloric acid to dissolve a statue of an old man's hand to get the gold medallion. And as you work your way around, you can unlock shortcuts that'll make it easier to get back and forth between places. There's one room where you can go where you get the literal cat scare. It's like, oh, this works in movies. Let's do this here. But I like the way that they subvert it later on. You walk into the locker room and you hear one of the doors rattling. And you think, okay, I'm going to go check this out. There's a kitty cat locked inside. You open it and he goes and runs away. But like when the door opens, you hear a scream and a splatter. But the scream is not a cat scream. It almost sounds like an ape screaming, like a chimpanzee. Yeah.
Yep. Then bad things aren't going to happen for that cat.
Yeah,
it's very funny that like the cop, the hospital administrator, the nurse, and the cultist, and one cat all made it over into the cult world. Silent Hill. One normal ass cat is like, oh shit, I'm having a day. Maybe that's where the psychological horror comes from.
Maybe
in this one, no treats.
Nary a bag to shake.
Yeah. I really want Silent Hill for cats where like you have a little bag of treats that starts shaking when there's a monster about. It's very cute.
I love that.
Do the mod where you get to be that cat for the entire game, like your consciousness transfers to that cat.
Please, you cowards.
Find your kittens.
Adorable is what it is. Yeah.
So we put in the gold medallion that we got, advances the world state. We go to the music room where there's a piano, has blood all over the keys, and this poem about where certain birds like to roost. And this is a puzzle about which keys to press in the right order. There are 5 birds listed, 5 keys that do not make a sound.
The
so
poem,
you have to put them in the right order.
Yes, the poem says these are songless birds, and the key, the keys that are the most bloody are the ones that are important to this. And you just literally like one of them is like, oh yes, the dove flew as far as he could, but the crow was greedy and he roosted next to one of these others. Almost like literally, a logic puzzle where like, okay, yes, the oldest and the youngest, who has which name, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is as hard as the puzzles get. And this so much so that this is like an infamous puzzle. And I think that really says a lot about the standards for riddles and puzzles on video games.
Yeah.
That this is considered like legendarily hard, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Not trying to flex or anything. It's not a very complicated logic grid. I'm not a logic grid guy, and it felt pretty, I could just kind of intuit it, and I didn't have to break out a pen and paper or anything.
Yeah. No.
So after we go and then put the silver medallion from that, we can go into the basement, put that in the clock tower where the furnace room is. We start the generator. This powers the door to the clock tower. So we can go into the clock tower and climb inside going down a ladder. And I love that we're going further down. Silent Hill is something I associate with Silent Hill. Same, this was happening in Echo as well, is going down large distances.
Yeah. I also love that you go down the ladder and then you walk in this hallway as the transition takes place, and the way that the clock tower is in a corner, you should be coming up outside the school facing in the opposite direction. But when you open the door, you're just walking out what should be the door you came in from.
Yeah.
So
it's big earthen peak.
Yeah.
Iron Keep stuff.
But but like you see he steps out like, wait a minute, this looks familiar. This doesn't make any sense. What's going on?
Yep. Now it's raining. It's dark. There's this huge big cult sigil on the ground, and we're in the nightmare version of the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spooky version.
Yep. The north exit is blocked by a big spinning fan. First appearance of many of improbable fans. And we've got a storage room that is full of headless dolls tied to the rusty grating on the walls. Who put those dolls there?
Spooky. You can find a rubber ball. You can bounce it if you wish. Sanitarium callback. And this classroom that we find has these different cards on it. Here we find one called the picture card. It has a key on it. And if we try to leave the school, we cannot leave. At this point, we have to solve the school before we can go back out into the town. Right.
The reception area has this ominous door with these 3 black slots. It is bordered by these kind of like 2 bundled bodies. There's just a real fearful symmetry present here. You get in by sliding that picture card, the key card, into the door, opening it up, letting you get into the west hallway. I love what they do with these bathrooms here. Where if you go into the girls' bathroom, and then step back out, you're going to be you walk in on the first floor, you leave through the door of the second floor girls' bathroom, kind of in this own little area. You go to the second floor boys' bathroom and you get a shotgun that is under a big leathery body, and then you have to go back through. So like this is just a little warp bathroom, taking you from
it's like
places.
An elevator bathroom.
Yeah.
Never
explained.
No, I think I'd have a hard time using the bathroom on an elevator. After you get the shotgun, a classroom near here has these unplugged phones on a table. And when you go to leave, the phone rings. You pick it up. It's your daughter. It's asking for help, asking where you are. Kind of throwing in that a little bit of that guilt feeling to this, manipulating your guilt.
Yeah. Urging you ever forward. She sounds distressed. Daddy, where are you? You should be here. To proceed, you have to get this key that is stuck in a drainage pipe. This is really simple. There's a spigot you can turn on up on the roof. You have to use the rubber ball to block a near drain so that the water will go to a far one and knock the key down into the courtyard.
Yeah. When we're in that locker room we're in with the cat scare, it still rattles, but this time it is empty. We open it and we're like, phew. Nothing happened.
No, it's empty, but it's coated with blood. It's like it's like
Schrodinger's cat asked and answered.
Yeah, somebody pulled a Maniac Mansion microwave on that cat.
Yeah. When you go to leave, it takes advantage of your relief and does a jump scare with a body slumping out of a locker.
Love it.
On your way here. Yep. This gives us the key to the library reserve.
Yeah.
So we go there. There's a book lying on a table, kind of talking about a hunter. This is a hint for the boss, who killed a giant lizard by shooting an arrow in its mouth when it went to bite.
Yes.
So that is telling us how we're going to deal with this boss in a little bit.
You get onto the boiler room, and in order to proceed, you have to kind of work out this little puzzle. There are these two valves that you have to turn that will rotate to partial turnstiles. You need to line it up so when you turn the left one left or right, they rotate at different rates, and you just have to set up the offset so it'll create a path forward. And kind of a real nice puzzle.
I find this mildly annoying because they're not in the same interface.
Yep.
You rotate one, and then you decide you're done with that, and then you walk over to the other one. And it's just a trial and error thing. There's no, there's nothing to intuit before you start turning them.
Yes.
Really. Yeah. Like, you just have to figure it out after you fuck around with them for a little bit.
Yeah. Also, if you're not standing pointed in the exact right angle, your flashlight might not illuminate them, so it'll be very difficult to actually see how they are turning and count the rate differences.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer. Once you do this, you ride this elevator down to this chamber with a gout of flame spouting from the spherical mechanism in the floor. And our first boss is here, the Split Head, who is the lizard of yore.
Yeah.
That we just talked about, big evil lizard.
Yeah, it's a big. It's like a gigantic skink. It kind of has the
skink's dead.
Yeah, a big blunt head. Crawls around on four arms, but its back legs are real weak. This is actually echoed in the first boss of Silent Hill 3, the split worm. That you end up fighting has the same gimmick as well. This is kind of teaching you, like, you can shoot while walking backward. You found the shotgun. What you have to do is kind of plink the heavily armored head to get it to like slowly open up its jaws. And it's real tense. You're playing chicken with this thing because you've got to just like slowly walk backward as you see, it exposing the inside a little bit, opening. And then you have like just a moment to fire off the shot. It only takes one to kill this thing. And you've got just that moment to fire before he does his attack. It's real high risk, high reward kind of deal.
Yeah. And being, if I'm feeling generous about the game's combat, I would say that it does play into the basic rule of the combat, which is timing.
Yes.
Like the basic mechanic of it.
This is the best boss fight in the game without question.
Yeah. It doesn't go, better than this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So acknowledge a high point when it comes. It's all downhill from here boss wise.
Yeah. After he dies, everything slows down and gets blurry. We hear the sirens again, and the boiler room returns to normal. We've gone back into Shadow Realm as opposed to Dark Realm.
Yep.
We're in Fog Zone.
We get a cutscene. A woman who appears to be kind of a grown-up Cheryl is leaning up against the boiler. When she takes notice of Harry, she disappears. There's a key left in her place, the K. Gordon key. And
Kim Gordon.
What's that?
From Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth.
Oh yeah, nice.
No.
Is that explicit? Has that been referenced?
No. I think it's just that's what I think about when I think about Kim Gordon.
Oh, okay. That key.
No.
Yeah.
Or no, when I see K Gordon, I think about Kim Gordon.
Yes. Yeah. But you can look at its tag. You can examine items, get a closer look. It mentions, old Silent Hill Southwest block. This will be the key to go forward. The front door is open. You can step out, and Harry hears a church bell. As opposed to thinking, hey, that must be on a timer or whatever. Harry's like, somebody's there. We need to get there. And the Balkan Church is circled on the map. We got to get over there.
Yep. So we're on our way, but chasms force us to proceed through a house on our way there. We can open this house because we have the Kim Gordon Sonic Youth key. Get a kind of a save point here. When we get to the church, we find this strange and explicitly sinister old woman here. Has a real uncanny look.
Real skeletal. Like in a game that already has some faces. This woman, Dahlia, is designed to be like, why would I trust her? Even before she opens up her mouth. Opens up her mouth and like she's been expecting you because she's been engaging in divination. Like people laugh because it was foretold by gyromancy. Real ass thing. Like
it's pronounced Euromancy, and Greek culture is not a joke. So
oh god.
I saw it in the feta. You're on your way.
Oh man, just now I really want a gyro. A gyro sounds fucking tasty right now is what it
In a
does.
minute since I've eaten from the Forbidden Tower.
From the cone. Can I get a slice of that cone?
Yeah, can I get a wet slice of that shiny cone, please?
Oh my god. Gyromancy. No, it's just like walking around in like a circle around a like a ritual ritual sign, and the dizziness kind of giving you Delphic kind of disorientation. It's just a way to tap into the randomness of the universe.
Truly
real
one
thing.
of the dumbest forms of divination.
It's very goofy.
Like walking in a circle until you get dizzy and calling it divination is pretty pathetic.
Well, Oracle of Delphi was probably huffing natural gas and getting high, which means that basically doing the same thing as Charlie from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, but it's still that feels more cool and adult than just running in circles. The thing that kids do.
Yeah.
To fall over and get dizzy for fun.
Yeah.
They're actually experiencing divination.
Yeah, a lot of cosmic truths on the merry-go-round at the playground.
The tilt-a-whirl, a.k.a. the predict-a-whirl. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, coming off of the Gravitron and just saying, I figured it all out.
War! So she knows you want the girl. You have to follow the path of the hermit concealed by Flauros. And Flauros is going to be an object. We're going to find out about that.
Yeah, well, she hands it to you.
Yeah. Yep. And she gives this to you, this kind of tetrahedron. She calls it a cage of peace that is going to counteract the wrath of the underworld. And sends you over to the hospital. Get there with great haste.
Yes. Yeah, and then she leaves. The Flowers is on the altar along with this drawbridge key. We've got to go to a different district.
So we head on over to Central Silent Hill. There are new enemies here. The adorably named Rompers.
Yep.
The ape-like guys, they move slow until they get you within their sights. And then they leap like a pretty long distance towards you.
Yeah.
These guys, to me, were good targets for guns.
Yes.
Because of that.
Yeah.
I did not like letting these guys get close.
Yeah, the general heuristic for Silent Hill games that I found is do not use a weapon until one dungeon after you have found it, and then it's fair game.
Yeah,
so not using the pistol a lot in the school, but by the time you leave the school, you have enough ammo, and the enemies are dangerous enough that you're justified to use them. You want to plink these guys out of the air before they get you, because they're really tough to outrun.
Yeah, and it can hurt you pretty bad.
Yeah.
There's a police station here we can pop in that acts as a little item room. It's on the critical path. I wish there was more of this.
Yep.
That there are more things, just rooms you can go into. They tied getting the good ending into doing this.
Yes.
In a way that bums me out just a little bit because I don't feel properly encouraged to do it.
Right.
I felt like the design of most of the hallways in the town, I was encouraged to make a beeline to my goal as soon as possible.
Yeah. Oh, you were discouraged if you were trying it, like, oh, they wouldn't have labeled this on the map if it wasn't someplace, it wanted me to go, not like circled out on the critical path, but like, the gas station is named. Useful stuff is at gas stations. No, it's just like a design element. And then it's outside.
Yes.
By the time you get to the resort where going into these buildings really matters, you would not be, I would not blame you for thinking, yeah, it's not worth checking those doors.
This is also where you get a note, and I think this is the first hint of the drug subplot.
Yes, it is.
In the game, which I'm curious to hear what you think about it, because I was surprised by how unconnected it is to the cool parts of this and like what's neat about this. Like to what purpose this drug subplot?
I mean, to what purpose? To explain, like the thing that I think is cool about this is that like it's a way that they keep people coming back. you know? Like the drug is, you know, when you find notes later on, it's being taken to places that would serve food. It's being taken to the restaurants. It's being taken to the, you know, to the hotels, things like that. You know, the idea that like Harry or, you know, James and Mary, you know, like, yeah, they're outsiders who came here. You know, the fact that there is this hallucinogen that is drawn from this white flower that is implied to be similar to, you know, to the morning glory, that is an instrument of control that this cult is using. It is also implied to be the basis of the white chrism, one of the items that you use to get the demonic ending of Silent Hill 2. I think that is you know, neat backstory. However, it operates here as kind of an underwhelming red herring. Specifically, it feels like they have not, by this point, they had not necessarily made a lot of hard and fast decisions about how much of this was happening. It felt like it was put here as a way to say, like, it might all, you know, if this isn't an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, you know, this could also just be a hallucination that you know, that could account for what Harry is seeing.
That's how I felt about it. And I don't, you know, in general, I'm against that, but I'm specifically against it in Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Like in Silent Hill games, like I don't want everything to be a hallucination ever.
Yep.
But I really don't want it all to be a hallucination in this game.
Right.
Where a lot of the terror comes from there actually being a malevolent environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, if it's just a place where people can get certain party drugs, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know, like that's parts of Central Oregon. You know, I'm not scared by that.
Yeah.
You know,
as a background element about the cult's complete control over the town, and a way that they get leverage over people, I think it is cool and good. I think that it is, and as a red herring or as a possible explanation, it is leaning into a lame horror trope that it would undercut a lot of stuff that would be cool about this otherwise. And I'm very happy that they didn't lean into it.
Yeah, it basically, you know, gets progressively more backsat.
Yes.
Yeah, it really to me underlines that difference between like lore and story of this. Like this is part of the lore and kind of backstory, so it's cool. It's not so much a big part of the story, which would suck.
Yeah.
You know, but when you first find these clues, you're not exactly sure which one it is. There's also a note here where an officer that has no history of heart problems is dying of a heart attack. And the coroner ruling it natural causes, you know, suspicious stuff's going on. You know, as we find out, but we are on our way to the hospital. I was in the southern part of the district, and we can walk right over to Alchemilla.
Alchemilla Hospital.
Alchemilla Hospital.
Alchemilla.
There.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I said the second time.
Yep.
Didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just repeating. Sometimes we repeat what each other say. I was reinforcing it.
Yeah. According to our reviews. Drive some people mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we get here, we hear a gunshot, and we go to the exam room, and we're introduced to another real person here, Michael Kaufman.
Yes.
Dr. Michael Kaufman. He's holding a gun, and he's sitting over this dead monster.
Yeah.
And it looks like he just shoots you as soon as you come in.
He does. Yeah.
It doesn't look like it misses at all.
He aims square at center mass.
Yep. But it turns out he missed.
Yeah. Yeah. He thought that you were a monster. Once he realizes you're an actual person, he's like, oh, sorry about that. He fell asleep and he woke up to the world being like this. He, you know, similar to Sybil, doesn't have any answers, at least none that he's, you know, ready to give at this point. And he's shady, you know, he's a different kind of shady than Dahlia, but like, you know, there's definitely something up with him, you know?
Yeah. He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't seen Cheryl. He asks about your wife. It's revealed that she died 4 years ago. So he takes off. We're going to run into him later if we want the good ending.
Yes.
We take the map from reception. We get to exploring this area.
Yeah.
Here. Really important, when we go to the director's office, there are all these vials that are smashed on the floor, one of which has a bunch of red liquid. And if you want a good ending of this, you want to use this plastic bottle from the kitchen and suck this up.
Yes. Yeah, there's a plastic bottle that has no use otherwise, and you want to grab this before the world state transitions. Yeah.
Yes.
This is
easy
important.
to miss.
We will explain it at the ending.
Yeah. The way that I think of that, the way Silent Hill handles its endings, as again just kind of a diametrically opposed philosophy to how Resident Evil does it. They're both games that are intended to be played multiple times, but Silent Hill does it for narrative reasons.
Yeah.
It won't be obvious that you need to do this, but it tells you how good your ending is.
Yeah.
Like when you get an ending in this, it implies how good of an ending you got. Whereas in Resident Evil, there are multiple endings, but it also gives you your time and unlocks costumes and super weapons and shit. It's meant to be replayed as an arcade experience, whereas Silent Hill is meant to be replayed as a scour better.
Yeah.
Try to do more stuff and get a more complete version of the story.
Yeah.
Experience.
Different structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The elevator initially isn't working. You've got to go down to the basement to power it up, but the elevator is not necessarily very useful. The elevator lobbies on the second and third floor, they're both kind of blocked off by these jammed doors. You can't get out of them. You have to check all three of them. But when you get back into, I love this so much. When you get back into the elevator on the third floor, there's a new button that wasn't there before. You got to go to the fourth floor. And what's on the fourth floor, but a transition to the Nightmare Hospital. You don't spend an awful lot of time in the regular version of Alchemilla.
No. When you get out into this version, you get a brief glimpse of old Cheryl walking into an antique shop before you walk around the rusty version of this. And we do not have a map yet.
No,
we only have a map of the real hospital. So you wind down the hallways. Doors are locking behind you as you go. And eventually, when you go down some stairs onto the third floor, you're back on the map. Your map does count. We didn't really talk about this in generalities, but hugely important. I can't believe I missed this. Harry will mark up your map.
I love it.
As you go with stuff you need to do and what doors don't work and stuff. It's really good. It makes the realistic spaces with this many doors you can't use tolerable.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Harry marking your map or some ability to mark your map, that would be almost a vorpal flaw in this to me. Having to remember which doors were just set piece doors that will never open versus ones that are locked and will eventually open.
Yeah. Which doors are just painted on and which ones are operative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the game keeping track of you for that it's hard to call it a kindness because the lack of it would be violence. It'd be like me and you standing next to each other and me calling it a kindness for you not to like punch me in the throat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always an option.
Yeah.
And the fact that I don't do it. I mean, honestly, it would end our friendship pretty quickly if I just punch you in the throat.
It'd be difficult. It'd be hard to move past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just because my throat would be all fucked up.
Yeah, but the way that Silent Hill handles maps is has always been good to me. I like it quite a bit. Yeah. So there are new enemies here. We're introduced to the puppet nurses and the puppet doctors. If you're familiar with Silent Hill by its reputation, you are going to be expecting these to be the mascot enemies, the bubble nurses from Silent Hill 2, where they're a little bit sexy. Right. They've got the cleavage and stuff like that. That isn't the case here. These are, people that have these parasitic lumps growing out of their backs. They will attack you with knives. Some of them have guns, specifically the doctors do. And their strategy is one will grab you and hold you, while the other one will come up and attack you.
Yeah. And again, not horny.
Not horny.
So the patient rooms that we're seeing have these colored carved plates labeled turtle, cat, and queen. The three genders. The final plate is in the second floor patient room and guarded by these tentacles that flail on the wall. We can't get close enough to them, so we need to throw a blood pack for them to eat to get them out of the way.
Yeah,
just kind of nuzzle.
Just the soup's on. Yeah.
Yep.
Grab this. The door to the rest of the second floor, it has a plaque mounted next to it with something called the Grim Reaper's list. It's this list of names and there are some numbers beside it. It's kind of neat. There are things that are clues that are not used during this trip to the hospital. They only becomes operative in the ending of the game, kind of the final dungeon. So, this will be important later, but right now it is just kind of a dangling thread.
Yeah. We also find a nurse's station over here where there's a paper on the wall with this poem. clouds flowing over a hill, sky on a sunny day. And on our way out, there is the door, or the door out of here has 4 slots. The solution is given by this puzzle or that poem that we just had.
Yeah.
The important thing is the color of the plates, not what's on them.
Yeah.
This is a cool riddle trick. They do it later with the leg puzzle.
I love that.
I like that one more than I like this one.
Same.
A little bit, but they're very similar sideways, logic solutions.
Yeah. I can't be Pagliacci. That's my son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you put the plaques in there, and you can go through and take the stairs down to the basement. There is a pretty good weapon down here, the emergency hammer. This is the strongest melee weapon that you can get. It is not unusable like later super strong melee weapons you would get later in the series. Your pyramid head sword or your maul. This actually ends up being pretty useful against the nurses. This hammer does.
Very good for nurses.
Yeah,
actually. When we are down here, we get down to the sub basement. One of the rooms has this VHS tape on a gurney. So we're going to want to grab this. And in one of the patient's room, there's a cutscene. There's a bed in the center of it and a picture of a young woman named Alessa. And that is the older Cheryl we've been seeing.
Yeah.
So weird. This Silent Hill resident looks just like our daughter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like this is not just a patient room. This is like in the sub basement. You have to move a cabinet out of a hole in the wall to get down there. And like burn away some vines. Like people did not want this room to be found. It's pretty important. So yeah, in this forbidden room, you get the VHS tape, and there's also an exam room key. You can take the tape up to the third floor save room that you found up there. There's a television and a VCR, and this is an important tape. They're going to, pull this trick that was pulled in Silent Hill 2. Right now, the tape is nothing but static visually. You can hear a woman's voice, but it cuts out very frequently. You only catch little snippets. Unusual fever, barely a pulse. The skin is all ... Why? Why would someone do that to a child? And you would be forgiven for thinking that this is just another they just wanted to put something fucked up here because this is a horror game. No, this is extremely important story stuff, and we're going to see the child. Yes, we're going to see the full version of this later on.
When we head to the examination room, we find a nurse. There's a nurse hiding out. This is Lisa Garland, and she runs right to you and hugs you.
Yeah.
Here, this is another human. She says she was knocked out. When she came to, everyone was gone. She's in the dark world, and she also has not seen Cheryl.
Right. Harry asks her, hey, I found this really weird room in the basement. Do you know anything about that? Lisa says, no, I don't know. The hospital employers are under strict orders not to go down there. We gotta stay away.
Yeah, it's a scary dark room. Do not go. You start describing what you found down there, and sirens kick in. You black out from pain. You grab your head, and when you wake up on the exam table, and that old woman we saw, the crone from earlier, Dahlia Gillespie, shows up, and she's being real crazy. She's talking about the town being devoured by darkness.
Yeah,
we basically just kind of teleport here. Yeah. While we're passed out. It's real weird and disorienting. Mm-hmm.
I love that it happens as he's describing that hospital room. This is stuff that can't be uttered to particular people. I also really enjoyed that you said Dahlia Gillespie. That is a very funny name. It's good Gillespie. Yeah. It's Dahlia Gillespie.
Gillespie.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just mixing mouth mushing it. Yeah. I don't know how none of it will come through on the recording, but I keep getting flustered with technical and cat difficulties during this recording, so it keeps knocking me off my rhythm.
Just a fun Tim and Eric name, Gillespie. But yeah, she's talking about the town as being devoured by darkness. She says that Harry needs to go to the other church in town. What is happening here is beyond, she says, this is beyond my abilities. Only you can stop it now.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because the plot revolves around her kind of fake, using you. She's oh, there's this crest all around town. It's the mark of Samiel. Don't let that be completed. You're never really, your character never goes along with being conscripted into a preventing a demon thing. Yeah. You're always just looking for your daughter. Mm-hmm. She just kind of sends you places under the auspices that your daughter might be there and telling you like, hey, stop this summoning,
Yeah.
you know, you never really care about it.
No, you're just a pawn on the board, which makes you, the fact that you don't care about it makes you kind of the perfect, the perfect tool for her.
Yeah.
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 So you get the antique shop key from a desk here, and we go back into the foggy version of the hospital. We leave here, but we can finally leave it and go look for the antique shop.
Yes.
Which is near the shopping center in the northeast.
Yeah. You run up there. You get to the antique shop. The front door is busted open. The key that she uses opens the inner door. Much like in the basement of the hospital, you can move this cabinet, revealing a hole in the wall. Before you go inside, Sybil rejoins you. You know, she followed you into this place. She spotted you. All of the roads leading out of town have been blocked because of these chasms. Also, none of the cars are running anymore. Just like, so something really wants us to stay here. She did see a young girl in the fog over by Bachman Road, headed toward the lake. She followed her, but she couldn't catch her, and she disappeared. You know, that road just kind of dead ends into a chasm. She couldn't have gone anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. You mentioned Dahlia, and Sybil says, oh, she might be on these drugs. A local sell them tourist. She's not on the drugs. I mean, she might be, but that's not why things are going crazy.
Yeah.
Before you part ways, Harry says, hey, do you know anything about this nightmare world? You know, have you been getting sucked into a nightmare world of, rust and chains?
Yeah.
A Cynobite, and she says, no.
Yeah. It is all, it is all fog for her.
Yes.
You go into this tunnel, through the antique store wall, and it takes you to this profane altar. It looks very demonic. This would be the other church, right? The one that is here. There is there's powder in the chalice, and there's this axe on the wall that you can take. It's a pretty good melee weapon. It's fast. Doesn't have the reach of the hammer though. When you go to leave this room, the chalice catches fire, and I love this. Sybil hears something, and she calls for Harry. But when she goes in after him, he's gone. He's been taken by the town. Like, he is in this other dimension within this dimension.
Got sucked in.
Yeah.
You wake up on a bed in an exam room in the hospital.
Yep.
Again. And you're told you were having a bad dream, by Lisa, the nurse. You ask if she's heard of Dahlia, and she has. She is a famous local eccentric. And part of her local legend is that she went crazy when her kid died in a fire.
Yeah. She wasn't well before that, but we're going to find that out. Harry asked her, like, hey, do you know about this darkness that Dahlia might have been talking about? Lisa says, oh, there are some, things about this town's past. The people who lived here, they were quiet and they worshipped this weird, occult religion. But eventually young people started leaving the town, and the town started changing, getting more mainstream, kind of as society caught up with it. But as this was happening, high-ranking people around the town started dying in mysterious accidents. The cult was trying to maintain control over this. This is a cool story beat that is like nothing is done with it until Homecoming. But the idea of a modernizing town and the forces that like try and stop that, in secret is a cool and good idea. And it deserved a much better game than Silent Hill Homecoming.
Yeah, it's like a reverse Night in the Woods.
Yeah.
She apologized for rambling here, and you wake up again, this time on a floor near a couch in another nightmare room.
Yeah.
And you wonder, like, am I just dead in my car, or am I unconscious in a hospital room? Like, you're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
Around this part.
I'm losing a lot of time.
Are you prone to having blackouts? Yeah. Are you prone to having blackouts? No.
Oh my gosh. But yeah. You go to leave the room, and there's a mark of Samael on the floor. This mark that you've been told is the mark of Samael. When you step outside, the whole town has been nightmarified. This is the first time that this has happened. The Fog World version, but now the entire outside is the bloody grating and chains and stuff like that.
It's great to walk on a grating over just an endless gulf of nothingness.
Yep.
Like, that is very scary. Like, you get a little piece of that when you're just walking in a city and you walk across, like one of those street grates on the sidewalk.
Yeah, like a subway or a steam grate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that, but for everything. Like people presumably drive on it. It's so scary. So the security shutter at the entrance of the mall is ripped open, so we can go inside. This is the first area in Silent Hill 3. Here at this mall.
No, that's a different mall. That's a
different mall? Oh, yeah.
It is where Heather begins the game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some screens turn on showing that mark of Samuel. And then a static filled video of Cheryl asking you for help again.
One of the more funny, like off-brand things, this screen is right in front of, it's like a Vision Ultra store or something like that. But it's
Vestal Records.
It's Vestal
instead
Records.
Of Virgin Records.
Huh. Yeah, but it's very clearly Virgin Superstore, which I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So you try and run further into the mall, but then this grating breaks and you fall into this sand-filled arena on the first floor, next to this gun store, where this loose rifle is kind of fallen as the window broke, and we're attacked by the second boss, this twin feeler caterpillar.
Yeah, pretty dumb.
Yep.
You run in perpendicular ways.
Yeah,
and that's what you do.
Yep.
So it pops out of the ground. You run to the side. It will not hit you. You shoot it.
Yeah.
Eventually, it just curls up. If this were the only thing that this boss did, it would be pretty disappointing. It is caterpillar, so it is going to turn to a butterfly.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. But it bursts out of the front door, giving you a way back out onto the street.
Mm-hmm. When you get back out on the street, there are new versions of the enemies, the Night Flutter and the Wormhead, which are tougher flying enemies and dogs from before. Mm-hmm. So basically the same thing, just rougher.
Yeah.
We go to the hospital to talk to Lisa again to see if she has any answers. She's really happy to see you. And you ask how to get to the lake. Because again, last time we talked to Sybil, she had seen your daughter head towards the lake.
Yeah. The only way there is Bachman Road, but that is blocked. She does remember that there's a waterworks near Midwich Elementary that has an access tunnel that people think leads all the way to the lake. You wouldn't have a reason to be down there if you're a sewers worker, but it's your best shot.
Yeah, give it a shot. And she begs you not to go. She acts very uncanny in this. Mm-hmm. So she can't stand to be alone, and she's really like, hammering on her sympathy here.
Yeah.
You're like, well, come with me. And she doesn't want to leave the hospital either. Yeah. She says, somehow I feel I'm not supposed to leave this place.
Yeah.
Very, very menacing, and she's going to get a bad end.
Oh yeah.
We'll find that.
Tragic. I mean, one of the most tragic outside of Alessa, the most tragic figure in the game.
Yeah.
But Harry says, if I'm going to find my daughter, we'll come back, we'll get you, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah. When you step out on the roads have changed. There's only this kind of small path with these pitfalls taking you to the post office across the street. Would you head up onto the roof, and we run into Float Stinger, which is the grown form of Twin Feeler, which is not a great boss fight. Like, It's cool that you fight a caterpillar and then fight its butterfly version. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the trick is for this. I just tanked it and shot.
Yep.
I don't know if there's more to it than this.
Yeah, that's about all I did too. Really just ran corner to corner. That's basically what you do in every Silent Hill boss fight, is run corner to corner and try to outrun it. But like its attacks will get you. I really didn't find a way to dodge this. Every time I squared a weapon away, it would get up on me and spit its acid or hit me with its abdomen.
Yeah, you can strafe in this game, and you have a backstep that looks like a very fancy businessman jumping over a puddle in reverse.
Yeah,
it's a really dorky animation.
Yeah,
but it's not super useful.
No.
It's kind of useful.
Yeah.
So after you kill it, the sirens start back up, and we are in the fog world, so we can head on over to the sewer from the waterworks.
If you decide like, I'm going to go check on Lisa back at Alchemilla Hospital, in the fog version, she's not there. She's not in the exam room, the only place where you've seen her.
Yeah.
So that's data.
Yeah. So when you return to the other district, the game just like teleports you to the waterworks. Mm-hmm. This feels like a playtest patch to me.
Yeah.
It is kind of hard to find the waterworks, but it's a weird thing, because the first time the game has done that for non-dream reasons.
Yes. Where it's just like, okay, we're going to edit this piece out. Like, just assume that you went directly here.
Use a melee weapon to break in, and you get down into a sewer level. This is not as hateful as it could be, but it's not my favorite by any means. It doesn't seem particularly scary in comparison to everything else.
No. It feels mostly like empty space. It's the closest that the game gets to padding, I feel.
It's also no coincidence. This is where I get pretty sick of running through places, and I start treating every area as just run zigzag, make a beeline for the thing.
Yeah.
If it's a hallway, I am not paying attention to it. And, for the rest of the game, basically.
The enemy here, like the special enemy for this, is not any great shakes, really. It's pretty similar to the kids, except they'll drop down from the ceilings. These are called the hanged scratchers. They're like insect, reptile, hybrid kind of guys who attack with their mantis-like claws. There's an ambush. Like, to get out of here, you need to grab a key from this bloody area of water. Generally in a Silent Hill game, if you see an area that is conspicuously more bloody than someplace else, something terrible is going to happen to you there. They'll drop down and attack you. But, this is, there's very little stopping you from just running around these enemies and getting past them. Do a speed run.
With this key, you can get back up to the surface. And you end up in the Silent Hill resort area. There's lots of optional stuff to do here. You can beeline, which I watched the stuff for the good ending. I did not get them in this, because by this point I was eyes on the prize in terms of not finishing the game, but just getting to locations. So I just happened to go to the docks first, and skipped saving Kaufman, which you do at Annie's bar. When you pump in, he's being attacked by a mumbler, and you have to save him, otherwise he dies.
Yes.
And that contributes to the ending.
Yes. You want to do this not just for the good ending, but also it's a cool story with Kaufman. He's kind of a precursor to Vincent insofar as he's part of the cult. He's aligned with them, but he's more worldly than everybody else. Like it's just kind of like, yes, I will help you take control of this town, but I don't really want, this wasn't part of the deal that it would be hell. I thought I was going to be making money, essentially is what it is. Yeah.
Capitalist cult.
Yes.
Like his story content, I'm not saying his story content isn't worth it. I just read about him later and watched these scenes on YouTube.
That's perfectly reasonable way to do it. Also, like we said, there, you would be forgiven for not wanting to check doors or check important places on the map. There's nothing that calls out like, hey, go to Annie's bar. But you save him and you get this really stilted conversation. Harry asks Kaufman, hey, do you know about this girl named Alessa? And Kaufman flatly says no. And then he hurries his way out. That would have stopped there, except Kaufman dropped this little folio containing a hotel room key and a receipt for a nearby steakhouse with the numbers with the number 0473 written on it.
He likes his hotels and he likes his steaks. We're on the case.
Yep. So
we go to the steakhouse to slop them up, and we use that number on a combination for a lock on the front door to find this diary. That's on the counter. The owner of the steakhouse talks about someone suspicious going around to business owners. He doesn't want to be involved with them, but he's being conscripted. The idea is that local heads of community are being, courted here.
Yes. Yeah. Like there are packages being delivered, and you can use the key that you find here to open up a safe, and there are bags full of white powder. This is the drug. This is the White Claudia, or the drug derived from White Claudia. The White Claudia is the flower. I forget, it's like PVF is the name of the drug, something like that. There's a shopping list on the back wall here, directing you to this next location. It's a delivery order for the Norman Young's hotel. There's a code that you can put in here to get into the office. We're going to head to this hotel anyway because of the key. And you find a newspaper article. Here we go. I didn't need to guess. It was written here. There's a newspaper article about PTV. And these drug dealers. Any politician who is opposed to the drug dealers ends up mysteriously dead. lining up with what we found in the police station.
And we get this diary from Norman, the man who owns the hotel, taking this package and being afraid of disobeying the person who delivered it.
Yeah.
So people are being strong-armed into it. We go to Kaufman's hotel room. It's empty, but there's a shelf we can push out of the way to find a key beneath the floorboards, which we're able to get with a magnet that we got from the office here. And this key allows us to get into the gas tank of an old motorcycle that's in the hotel's garage to get a small vial in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
This matches the crushed vials from the hospital. This is magical exorcism juice. This is what you need for the good ending. You need to be able to magically exorcise a couple of possessed people.
Yeah. Kaufman barges in and takes this. This is the aglaophatus, an actual herb that is mentioned in Kabbalah. And this is derived from that. Spoiler for the end of Silent Hill 3. This is what
spoiler
Heather
for Kabbalah.
Well, just if you're going to spoiler for these Gnostic texts,
Can I get to the TV trope page for the Gnostic text?
One of my favorite jokes in 30 Rock. Jenna she's like following Kabbalah because it's a trendy thing, and she mentions, "Oh yeah, the Kabbalah monster says." Just love the idea of the Kabbalah monster.
I first heard about Kabbalah because Madonna got into it.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like interviews with her with Kurt Loder with him like archly putting his eyebrow to her and her talking about how cool Kabbalah was.
All right. I'm not going to take anybody's belief from you. This from the outside, this sounds silly, but
it does sound pretty silly.
It does. Yeah. But it's not for me. Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, this is what's in Heather. It's exorcism stuff. Kaufman needs to take this, and he threatens you. Says like, "Hey, mind your own business. If I catch you nosing around anymore, you're dead." Basically. But we're all dead. We're in hell, Kaufman.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be threatened by you. We head towards the docks. You can do this initially as well. Once you do this, the world shifts into nightmare zone. And this happens while you're conscious. Harry even remarks on, he says it feels different this time.
Yeah.
And we're in the nightmare version of the resort here. We head on towards a boat and we find Sybil. She followed our tracks through the sewer. And Harry, he confides what he thinks is going on. The town is being invaded by the other world. This world of someone having nightmarish delusions. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
There are nightmarish delusions being inflicted on him, and it seems surprising that Harry has been able to intuit this.
Yes, based on what he has encountered so far. Sybil's skeptical. It sounds like a reach. You might need to sleep. Are you prone to blackouts? Yeah.
She just wants you to wake up in the hospital again.
How many hot dogs would you say you eat each day? Yeah. But they're interrupted by Dahlia. It's like the demon is awakening, spreading its wings.
One of the most uncanny things about this is Sybil putting up with Dahlia's shit. Because I understand why Harry would just be like, okay, all right, there we go. But Sybil's just like, huh.
Yeah,
you can cover that in the training. It just is fine with it. Like nobody just says like, we're going to question you because things are going on and you're very, very suspicious.
Yeah, Henry from Silent Hill 4 gets an awful lot of flack for being dispassionate. For being very muted in his response to things. I think that Harry definitely takes the cake for this. To me. He underreacts. There's nothing human about the way that he just real.
It's like it's a more purposeful version of Dark Corners of the Earth.
Yes.
Where like in Dark Corners of the Earth, he sees a sanity blasting thing. It's like, not today, cupcake.
That's not where lungs should be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad lungs. See. So Dahlia says there are only 2 marks of Samael left. And if we want Cheryl back, we need to stop the demon that is taking the child's form.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah.
To do this, we have to go to the lighthouse at the center of the amusement park and use the Flauros.
Yeah, the lighthouse and the center of the amusement park. Those are the last 2 ones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the 2 different places where the mark is. So they leave, and we continue up the winding path of the lighthouse. Incredible shot. Huge pain in the ass to control.
Yeah.
Seeing from the top of the spiral staircase as you head up. Really cool looking.
Yeah. And I love you get to the top and you're not like on the small platform at the top of the lighthouse. No, it's this vast expanse with the big glowing sigil on the ground. It's very good.
Yeah, great looking.
Yeah.
This void. Alyssa is here. She fades away. We cannot do what we were supposed to do here. It's too late.
Yes.
So we head back down.
Right.
And the game will just teleport you again, takes you to this boat. Sybil isn't back yet. So we run to this map marker where there's a grate over this ladder, and we can go through it. We assume she must have gone through here to get to the amusement park.
Yeah.
When we go down the ladder, we see a cutscene of Sybil being attacked from behind by something.
Yes.
Kind of foreshadowing the fight we're going to have.
This is another short sewer area. There is a cool effect. This is, again, the things slowly become more nightmarish as you go along, just by static things that are placed in the environment, the way the textures change, etc. Good effect. Like finally you reach the exit, like everything is bloody grating, and there are just carousel horses like floating in the water.
Yeah, I love the carousel horses in the water. Like the idea of the surface, like the amusement park crumbling down into this is really cool looking.
Yeah.
We get up into Lakeside Amusement, this area. There is not enough to this
Nope.
for this to be really cool. I'm glad they expanded this in 3. Amusement park is always going to be one of my favorite video game areas.
Yes.
Yeah. We really can just go forward towards this carousel, and we get there. Sybil is unconscious in a wheelchair on the carousel. When she wakes up, she's gone full Draculated.
Yeah.
Her eyes are red. She's shambling towards you. And for me, this was a boss fight because I forgot.
Oh, you had the red juice. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the first time, the way, I was talking about this game, wanting you to do loops of it to get the narrative.
Yeah.
Seeing the red juice being exorcism juice, like there's nothing that we have, nothing tells us what that stuff does other than cutscenes at the end. So it's not intuitive without prior knowledge to throw red juice on her at all.
Yeah.
I think that there's not really a way to know that.
Yeah. Like the idea
It's
being
the kind of thing
like, you go through, you get the terrible ending, you think, okay, I'm going to go back, and maybe you find the Kaufman stuff, and then you see him throw the red juice, and you think, oh, like I could totally, okay, yes, I can go and get this and then use it myself. So,
and then the third ending you go through.
Yeah.
And I don't, again, it's a different approach. I don't like the replay of this as much because it doesn't have that arcade, it's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same way that Resident Evil is, and you're not rewarded in the same way.
Yeah.
So I think that is what they're doing.
Yeah.
With having this really, really obtuse puzzle or adventure game style solution.
Yeah.
And I'm not super psyched on the idea of just replaying this over and over to understand, to get the complete story. That's a DNA I don't have. But but again, now it's 2021, so instead of doing that, I just looked it up.
Oh, of course,
and that's fine.
Yeah, and there were facts and there were strategy guides back at the time too. So if you wanted to, engage with that, you could spoil yourself for it pretty easily. Game Sages was around.
Yeah, as a boss fight, she's hard,
very hard. Enemies with guns are tough.
Yeah, she shoots you, and no matter what, you fall over because you've been shot. The trick is to kind of run back and forth. And she's likely to miss you and then get an attacks in between that. Yeah. If you want to kill her. The golden ending path is you throw the exorcism liquid on her.
Yeah. You have to be close to her and behind her to make that happen. When you do it, the parasite on her back, the same parasite that takes over the nurses, starts crawling away. It detaches from her and Harry stomps on it. And Sybil comes back to her senses. We have this expository conversation, Harry talks, kind of explaining me and my wife, we found Cheryl on the side of the road near Silent Hill. She's not actually our biological daughter, but we just found her and adopted her.
It's very funny storytelling that he tells her this.
Yep.
It's very click hole unprompted, where they show what they said what, and it shows the 3 celebrities, and it will just be someday I'll own all the bees in the world, and it's Jerry Seinfeld unprompted. There's no reason for him to bring this up. He literally says, "Well, there's something I haven't told you."
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of things you haven't told you. You guys have shared 3 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
This whole game. So the game did not know how else to tell you this.
Yeah, yeah.
So they put it here.
Yeah, but this is where he finally starts putting 2 and 2 together. There must be some connection between my daughter and this town. Yeah.
So he's going to save his daughter. As you're heading out, you encounter Alessa out there, and he demands, hey, we're not Alessa, Dahlia, right?
Well, no,
nutshell?
he actually finds Alessa. Like, it is, the grown Cheryl who's been appearing to us. He was like, hey, give me back my daughter. And Alessa knocks him over with her psychic powers. Like she points at him. Yeah.
So when he gets up, the flower rose that he has starts glowing and floating in the air above him. It zaps Alessa with its energy, and she falls over. Mm-hmm. And this is where Dahlia approaches, and he says, hey, I need to get Cheryl back. Like, he knows none of these people are on his side at this point.
Yeah. And Dahlia, you have done exactly what Dahlia wanted you to do. Because we meet at last, Alessa. Dahlia has been seeking out Alessa. Alessa has been shifting the world to try and stop her. And it's pretty tragic. Alessa can only respond in this childlike voice. Mama? Like, she has the body of a full-grown woman, but, is reacting like she's a small girl, saying her daughter, right? Or saying her mother.
Of girls.
Yeah.
Bodies of women.
Ooh, I don't care for that.
Little smart girls. Smart girls.
But Dahlia, she had underestimated how much Alessa had grown, how much her powers had expanded, so she got away. And Dahlia used Harry to hunt her down because, Alessa wouldn't be, as tuned into the fact that he, would present a danger to her, right?
Yeah. So he says, hey, there's only one thing you need to do for me now. Darling little thing, let's go home. So she's got blue energy coalesces around them. They fade away. So she's got her. She's going to use her in some kind of ritual. Yeah. The world fades to black. You wake up in the exam room with Lisa, and she says, hey, there's something that you mentioned that's been bothering me. When I went to the basement, I didn't see anything strange. I did get a kind of a creepy feeling like I'd been there before, but I can't remember it.
Yeah.
And she's kind of losing it. Yeah. You try to comfort her, but she gets up and storms out.
Yeah. And there's a rumbling sound. It sounds like it's coming from the basement. And you step out, and though you were in the exam room, you're not in the hospital. What has happened here is that because Alessa has been, captured by Dahlia, we're in this place. The game calls it nowhere. The world has collapsed, and instead, what you are going through is just like a jumble of these memories of places you have been, and places that were important to Alessa. Yes. And this is theological. These games usually end with this. That's kind of a mashup of places that you have been before, but with changes to individual rooms and things like that.
Yes. I like the concept of this a lot. I hate navigating it.
Mm-hmm.
I had become so map-pilled by this point. Not having a map made this pretty miserable to me. I had a hard time internalizing a map of this zone, and running into the combat on the way between these areas was really frustrating to me.
Yeah.
I actually find this to be a really frustrating dungeon.
Yeah.
When I ended up in a room with incident, cool.
Yes.
I love going to Alessa's room. I like the content of it. Navigating this, I think, fucking sucks.
Yeah.
To me.
I'm happy that they figured it out. By 2, there were a couple of areas where this happened, but by 3, definitely, the map for the area, for the final area in 3, was presented, kind of initially some of the areas were just a childlike drawing. This is, Alessa's, childhood notebook. I'm just going to draw the floor plan of the house, that kind of thing. But it is expanded, instead of just making notes about particular doors, the map is drawn in, as you go. I would not find a map of this place because who would map this, psychological, illogical no man's land. But, as a concession to the player, we're going to have this in the interface and it's going to be a cool thing. I wish that they had that at this point as well. Because a lot of, the main component of this, the connective tissue is all the different floors of the hospital, those L-shaped hallways, those all look very similar to each other.
Yeah. It's a thing where horror, we run into this a lot. Horror video games, I think, have a hard time knowing how to climax.
Yeah.
Where they have to both be a climax to the story, but then also a climax to the play. And with that, they want to tie in their forms of gameplay and have those be as rigorous as they can at the end. But this was never something I was really playing the game for.
Yeah.
The illogical space that takes me into a different area was not cool to me from a gameplay perspective. It was just cool to me from a story perspective. From a gameplay perspective, it's hella frustrating.
Yeah.
It breaks all the rules that are there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, so the weird intersection of mediums, like a thing that is incredibly cool in fiction or in a movie is less cool in a video game.
Yeah.
And it's not super long or anything. It's not that hateful. You know, it's just, I ended up pulling up a map of it.
Yeah.
To have in my second monitor because I got irritated.
Yeah. I would not, no jury in the world would convict you for doing that.
Not least of which, the other bit is that if you're spending a lot of time walking through these hallways back and forth, you're using a lot of resources, and you need them for this dumbass last boss.
You really do.
You don't want to end up using a lot of health kits before this because you can make the game unwinnable because of how they decided to program the last boss.
Yep. I remember being in high school, and a girlfriend got to the end of this game, and I was like, "Hey, I really have trouble beating this." Got to the end, and like we just spent a whole night going back and handing it back and forth, trying to beat it with very limited ammo and very limited healing. Basically just trying to get lucky because there was no older save. Because it was an actual physical memory card with limited slots. So,
what is like a nod towards kindness that doesn't actually work, but is a cool idea, is that the developers kind of accounted for this, but in the weirdest way possible, where if you have no ammo, the game will be like, "Oh, okay, we'll throw you a bone."
Yeah,
here's the thing. But if you have one bullet, they're like, "You can do it.
Just give it a shot.
Just
try,
slugger." It's like, this isn't a game where you aim or anything. Like, I can't do that.
No,
fuck, man.
There's very little input that I have in this process. Like, don't punish me for something I don't have control over, please.
To me, pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
As a zone.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about the cool things that you do inside it.
But I understand there's the low level confusion and the kind of groping back and forth that happens here. Yeah. Yeah. So we're in nowhere. And it is, appears to be a nightmare version of the hospital. There's a stairway that takes you down to a classroom, from Midwich. One of the first, our save room is in the antique store. We have the classroom here, except there is a single desk at the center of the room, all singled out. When you look at it, there's, the entire surface has been carved with stuff. And Harry calls out, somebody had written, "Go home, thief, drop dead." Alessa, people didn't like her. There was something different about her, something special. There was kind of like a Carrie thing going on a little bit. So she was isolated and lonely at school.
We on our way around here, we get we get some pliers, and we get the key of Ophiel out of the mouth of a spigot, which opens a door marked with this. This is going to be our themed keys.
Yes,
for this zone. After Greek, what did you call them earlier?
The Olympian spirits.
Olympian spirits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Ophiel. All these. And then there are doors that you find that are that are locked with these. They've got symbols on them. So these will open them up.
Yeah. When we get through here, we go to a different floor of the Nightmare Hospital. There's a slate at the end of the hallway here. In the other version of the hospital, this is blank. But when we see it this time, it's a key for that Reaper's List puzzle that we saw. We had to put these names in order by age. And doing this spells the word alert. And this is our code to this keypad near the double doors here.
Yeah, it's like a Ouija board layout of letters on this keypad here. Yeah. Pretty good. You step through and you get into this storeroom. There's nothing there, and you step into the back. There's a morgue. Nothing here, but there is like a Star of David. There's a hexagram. It's this amulet of Solomon. You're gonna be grabbing all of these, just symbols of different religions. You take it, and then you step back out into the storeroom for one of the saddest scenes in the game. Lisa is here, and she's figured out the nature of her.
Yeah, she's sick.
Yeah.
She says, like, I'm not the only one who's still walking around. I'm the same as them. I just didn't notice it.
Yeah.
She begs you to stay with her here because she's scared and save her from them. But when she approaches you, we get this cutscene of like blood flowing from her hair. It's really short, but she's like stumbling and kind of falling apart as she's bleeding.
Yeah. Just her face overtaken by this curtain of blood.
Yeah, it's very, very unnerving. Really well directed. It's like a second long or 2 seconds long in this cutscene, but it looks great.
Yeah, and I mean it's a great character beat for Harry too, because he has to like push her away and step back. He rejects the embrace obviously because it would kill him, but like this is somebody who is dying and needs help. But he has to he has to leave her alone. And you get to the other side of the door. He leans against the door as it's pounding, but then the pounding dies out. You can open the door and go back into the storeroom. You would think, okay, I don't want to go in there because that'll be like a boss fight or something. But no, Lisa's gone, and her diary is here. This is tragic. She says, you check this out. She had asked to quit being in charge of the patient. Spoken of, very, very, very broadly here, very vaguely, because it is too weird. She's still alive, but she has these wounds that won't heal. She'll never get better. They wouldn't take her off of it, but she quit her job. And talks about, she has the, basically this is an itchy tasty kind of thing. She's writing, talking about the room is filled with insects, even with the doors and windows shut. They get in to spite me. She goes to the hospital. She can't throw up anything but bile, blood, and pus are flowing from the bathroom faucet. She tries to stop it, but it won't turn off. She needs the drug. They were using the drug to control her. She was addicted to it as she was working in the hospital, tending to Alessa.
And basically just palliative care, like keeping a ever dying,
yes,
person alive
for 10 years.
Yeah, just like continuously in that state of dying, like Katana Zero style, or like anything like that, like real addict stooge, just forever in pain.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Pretty rough stuff. The next puzzle, I like this puzzle, where there are these zodiac signs and numbers. You think that you're going to have to pay attention to the sign, but really it's the number of legs that the animals have.
Yep.
Here, you have to notice that that's the correlation. Like, what does 10 have to do with a crab?
Yeah.
And then you notice it's the number of limbs.
Yeah, no, just I remember streaming this, streamed the original Silent Hill, and I didn't remember the trick to this. And I was working it out. I was like, okay, this must correspond to the number, number of the months, but it doesn't work. Like Sagittarius isn't at 12. That's really weird. Okay, so there must be some kind of offset or whatever. It's a really good misdirect. It's a great riddle. Yeah,
it's a misdirect because it misdirects down. Like it's dumber.
Yep.
Than it seems. Like it's just the number of leg on the animal.
Yeah.
Like you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
It tricks you into overthinking it, which is a nice way to do it.
Yeah.
When you do this, you get an item called the Stone of Time, which we then can use to proceed by using that on the clock in the save room. This breaks the glass. We can grab the key of Haggith. And once we have this, we can get to a new floor with a room from the mall that contains all these display cases. Yeah. Here we can get the Ring of Contract and the Amulet of Mercury.
Yeah. You can use a screwdriver that you found to get at this plate on a wall. This in one of these patient rooms here. It exposes a key, but the key is a part of a circuit. It's wired up. You can't grab it without being electrified. So you have to find the generator and cut the power. You go back to the elevator to go to the third floor. And instead of being in the hospital, this is this crude room with an altar at the end of it, and there are two paintings. The one on the left is a woman kind of like praying, it says to light the future. The one at the right has this woman kind of strung up, and she's being stuck with spears. This is the light illuminating the darkness, and there are two locked doors with these strange little like pattern locks.
Yeah, these little glyphs. The trick is you use the flash to illuminate these, and it'll show you what shape to put it on the glyphs. To go into these different rooms. The left door will take you to get the birdcage key. We've seen a birdcage, I think in the opening room.
It's real near the beginning. Yeah.
And the right room takes you to this book with a room with a book about the White Claudia herb. Again, this drug that has hallucinogens and is used in ancient religious rituals.
Yes.
Yeah.
The non-US versions of the game have an incredibly important document here.
Yes.
There's a newspaper article detailing this fire that broke out in town, supposedly killing Alessa Gillespie. And the date of that article is the same day that Harry and his wife found Cheryl on the side of the road.
Yeah. Really important.
Yeah.
Just incredibly dumb.
Yep.
Delete that
cut
out.
that out. Yeah. Let's add in, let's keep the kid demons that you kill with a pipe. But let's get rid of a story about a kid burning, in this, story that is incredibly fucked up about a mother who condemns her daughter to hell for bad religious cult reasons. Yeah.
It feels like a mistake because it's not just in the Japanese version. It also is in the PAL version. Mm-hmm. It's just the American version that didn't get this.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really, really fucking dumb. Not to get this thing.
Quite strange.
So we use the birdcage key. We get the key of Phaleg, which opens the door leading to what appears to be the sub-basement of the hospital. This is where we run into phantom children. Mm-hmm. So little invisible enemies.
Yeah. Like the ones from the school, but these can attack you.
Yes. Yeah. And head through further in here. Do we get the hospital kitchen? I really love this.
This is so good.
Yeah, this is incredibly good. There's this fridge with chains, a broken chain, and the dagger of Melchior sticking out of it. You should definitely save your state and take the dagger without doing anything because a tentacle comes out of the fridge and drags you into it.
Yeah.
To die. It's great. Yeah. All the prophecies from the end of G.I. Joe episodes have come true. Fridges really are a hazard.
Yeah.
Do not get stuck into an abandoned fridge.
Do not because you're going to get ed up. Yeah.
Yep.
I love that. I mean, it's so unsettling to have this instant death trap right here. I like it when they do that in the in Silent Hill 3 as well, with the tentacle monster in the pool that you have to throw the hairdryer into.
Yeah. Good.
Instant death generally really bad in games, but just as a little spice put in here as almost like this real incongruous thing that'll trip you up. You had many opportunities to save right before this. It's good and unsettling. It's a very good scare. So it is fine here in this context. It's tentacles that pull you into a fridge. It's great.
Well, and also it's not super cheap. Like you could reasonably say something was chained in here and now it's not.
Yeah. I think there's blood on there's blood in front of the fridge too.
Yeah. It signals to you.
Yeah.
Use the ring of contract to repair the chain. Mm-hmm. So this allows you to grab the dagger.
Yeah.
We go into another room, which looks like an attic with words and symbols kind of scrawled all over the walls, like happens in horror.
Yeah. If these people need to buy more legal pads, or they're not 100%. Expensive.
Use a pen, Shides. Bob. An apparition of Alessa appears, crying under a table, and then disappears.
Yeah. Here. So she was unsafe even at home. This is supposed to be the attic at her house. We grab an Ankh symbol, and then we leave. The next room has some storage shelves. We think, hey, there's some jelly beans. There's a bag of jelly beans that we can grab. But when Harry tries to open it, he just is a big old dumb oaf. He spills all the beans, but he reveals the key of Bathor, opening this up.
One of the sillier things that happens in this game. It's very funny. And I get a kid is projecting all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's very silly that the way that you get one of these key items is by fumbling opening a bag of jelly beans.
Ooh, jelly beans. Yum, yum.
Yeah, it's a real Mr. Bean move. So beyond this room is a VCR. If we put our tape in, it no longer has static.
Yeah.
And it's a tape of Lisa talking about the patient, Alessa. Saying the things she said before, but with additional context.
Yeah.
The wounds never heal. We don't know what's keeping this child alive. And she really wants to quit. She's like, let me stop doing this job. I promise I won't tell anyone your secrets. Mm-hmm. I just can't be the caretaker for this perpetual burn victim.
Yeah. Just, it's quite frankly very strange that you would expect this to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The key of Eritron is here, which will open up the final door in the sub-basement hallway. And you walk in and you actually see the ghosts of Dahlia, Kaufman, and the two other cultist doctors. The room that we walk into is the room beneath the hospital where Alessa was being kept alive. And they're talking. Dahlia says, "Oh, the plan worked. It," in quotes, is, sheltered in the womb. But the problem is half of the soul is lost. The incubation cannot be complete. The seed lies dormant. We need to reassemble Alessa, find this missing half of her. And this will take time. The ritual that we're looking for won't draw the power that is necessary. We need to cast a spell to get the other half of the soul back. The other half of the soul being the infant girl, being Cheryl, that Alessa sent out of the town in order to find a chance to survive. Right?
Yeah. Yep. So it's a classic soul split kind of story.
See it every day.
Yep. In this room, we also find a disc of Ouroboros on the machine next to the picture. So we're just gathering up all these objects we need, as we mentioned before.
Yeah.
The door across the hall takes you to a version of Alessa's childhood room. This is cool. It feels like a payoff. We're seeing some stuff. We see insect specimens in cases, butterflies and moths. We've been fighting a lot of those.
Yeah.
We see the books that she read, and these drawings, and these are all basically what we've been fighting.
Yes.
During the game. Really cool.
Yeah, love that. We see Alessa's outfit, her little school outfit that she wore when she was 7 years old. So that explains why we've seen her, and all of that. And the final door, you have to place these various symbols into slots on the wall to go through and get to the void where everybody is waiting for you.
Yeah, and this takes us into the end game.
Yeah.
We see this ghost version of Dahlia attempting to kind of drag a young Alessa across a room here, and just really abusing her. I just want you to lend me a teeny bit of your power. And she does not want to do this. She's just a kid.
Yeah.
She wants to hang out with her mom and not be abused by her mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dahlia, she has her little epiphany. Why didn't I see it before? There's no reason to wait. Herein lies the mother's womb containing the power to create life. I could have done it all myself. So she's going to take a shortcut. This way to reincarnate the demon. Everything that she needs is here. We're just going to go and do this. I mean, implying some really fucked up, sexual abuse happening as well.
Yeah. Her womb's just sitting there not being used. May as well, dust it off.
Yeah.
So we go down the stairs, his landing, very long stairs, genre staple, director trademark. End up on the floor. We get this cutscene. We cut over rather to this dark chamber in a gated expanse for the end game. Sybil, if we saved her, has Dahlia at gunpoint. Cheryl lies slumped at her feet, at the feet of Alessa, who is bound in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And Dahlia is, surprised that Alessa was able to project out and place the seal of Metatron around town, which she was using to protect herself.
Yeah.
Here. Harry and Flauros, the Flauros stopped it. You actually were cutting down her elder signs, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the mark of Metatron, this is what Dahlia told us was the mark of Samael. If Alessa had finished placing these around, they would have formed a larger symbol that spans the entire town, and it would have annihilated Silent Hill. It would have kind of cut off the nightmare world that she was put into by the ritual and stopped the birth of the god, and ending her own nightmare existence. But you inadvertently stopped this from happening.
Yeah. So Dahlia succeeded, and Cheryl still needs to be sacrificed for this. Not too different than the end of RE8, actually.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk about next week. In some ways, there's some similarities here. Sybil tries shooting Dahlia, but the bullet hits this force field because magic. Harry arrives and asks Dahlia, "Hey, give me Cheryl." Dahlia says, "Hey, you've seen her actually many times. You've seen Cheryl, but she's been restored to her true form."
Yeah.
Cheryl's not missing. That's who this is.
Yes.
This is her other half. This is her real version of her.
So, you've been chasing after what you thought, but when you arrived in town, the merger happened, and Cheryl is gone. It is back to this kind of confusing amalgam of the different forms of Alessa that we have here. And Harry asks her, why are you doing this? and Dahlia kind of like exults in this. I've been keeping Alessa alive. She's been suffering this fate worse than death. He, the cult's god, has been nurtured by that nightmare, waiting for the day to be born, and that day has finally come. Alessa is not a bad person. She, is not a demon, like if you've just seen the movie or like even some of the later games, like, yeah, no, like you're living in her nightmare, but her nightmare is the result of what the cult has done. It is, shaped by her childhood because, it is her nightmare, but she has been put in this in order to, nurture and create the ground for the demon to come back, implied to be Samael. But, that there's a little bit of wishy-washiness around that.
Yeah. So she's saying, hey, she's been being tortured for 10 years. This is horrible. We need to release her from this. Mm-hmm. She'll be released from this pain and suffering when we have this day of reckoning. My daughter will be the mother of God. Mm-hmm. And Alessa glows. Her wheelchair-bound form disappears, and she's replaced by a big angel. If you save Kaufman shows up, shoots Dahlia. It says, quit screwing around, return things the way they were before.
Yep.
Again, he's into the cult, but only for money reasons.
Yes.
He wanted to summon Mammon, not,
Mm-hmm.
And he splashes, he brings out this bottle of this exorcism juice.
Yep. The Glophatus.
Dahlia panics, thinking that she had destroyed it all.
Yeah. Yeah. She was the one who smashed all those bottles, but Kaufman kept it as his trump card. Kaufman throws it. It is a ridiculous slow motion as it flies and spins in the air.
It goes for a long time.
It really does.
I ended up watching this on YouTube. Because I got the different ending than this. Initially, I got the bad ending. So I was watching it, and the parts leading up to it, I was like scrubbing around. When I got close to it, I was watching it at 2x speed. Mm-hmm. To get to the part that was new stuff. Mm-hmm. Even in 2x speed, this takes fucking forever. It's comical. Like it's slow motion at twice the speed.
Yeah. It's the it's the steamroller kill in Austin Powers.
Yes. Yeah, it's really ridiculous.
Yeah. But the vial hits, the angelic Alessa, the incubator. When it hits, it stops her glowing as it splashes over her, and she starts writhing around. The air is filled with this horrible modulating static as the incomplete being inside of her, this incubus, blooms out of her back like a moth out of a cocoon. It's an incredibly cool effect. And as it comes out. It fries Dahlia in this red lightning and then attacks Harry.
Yeah. And then that's when we get our really horrible boss fight.
So bad. Where
a moth critter hits us with very hard to dodge lightning. And the lightning, every time it hits you 3 times. Mm-hmm. And you must heal to full partway through, like between those hits.
Yes.
It is a rhythm killing. Like, it's so artificial and gamey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so stupid. This is one of the worst boss fights we've done on the show.
I hope that you saved your ampules. Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise, fuck off.
Yep.
Fuck all the way off. Just really Hall of Shame boss fight.
Yeah.
And it's not a genre that is known for good boss fights.
Nope.
Like, calling this one of the worst boss fights in survival horror is a really huge statement, because even the best survival horror games tend to have pretty lousy boss fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, big woof. Pretty annoying.
Yeah.
God bless you if you're playing this without a emulator.
Yes. Please, you can get this on a Vita. You can get this on PlayStation 3 through PSN or whatever. Just download a ROM, play it in your emulator, get RetroArch or Open Email.
Just do it.
Just do it. Save states. Yeah. But you just got to run corner to corner. You have the rifle at this point. It's easy enough to level this thing at it. You're mostly doing shots at it without being able to see it. Just kind of taking it on faith that your shots are landing. Ultimately, though, you do defeat it. The incubus falls to the ground and dies. And when it does, we hear a young girl say "Daddy" before it fades away, kind of leaving the angelic Alessa behind.
Yep. When this glow that's around her finally subsides, she has an infant in her arms, and she gives it to Harry and points towards the exit. Mm-hmm. This is you got your Cheryl. The room is crumbling on fire, and Sybil gets up and starts encouraging you to go, like walking towards the light.
Yeah.
Kaufman gets up, but Lisa crawls through the ground and grabs him, dragging him to hell for making her, be addicted to drugs and take care of the bad patient.
Yep.
And Harry and Sybil run down the street surrounded by fog. We get a white flash to credits, and then we get a character roll of like outtakes. Like the character is kind of mugging and breaking, like the beginning of Saturday Night Live when like, oh look, John Lovitz is just grabbing a hot dog, but looking up at the last second at the camera to see that he's being filmed by Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
But for Silent Hill characters, it's incredibly weird.
It is one of the most confusing, just real tonal whiplash going on.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see you come in.
Yeah.
I was just hanging out in the streets of New York, my home.
Getting a real New York slice. Yeah. What we described was the best ending. There are 4 other endings that you can get that all function on 2 different things. It is whether or not you saved Sybil is kind of the minor one, and whether or not you saved Kaufman and ended up with Kaufman having the aglaophatus, the vial of the red liquid.
Yeah. So in the less good, less good ending, you saved Kaufman, but you didn't save Sybil. Harry runs out with the baby alone. He stands in the middle of a non-foggy street looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
Just kind of stuck there.
Yes.
If you don't save either of them, which I did first, you fight the incubator, not the incubus, just the thing that's in. Cheryl thanks you, says goodbye, and you fall to your knees saying it can't end like this.
Yeah.
The post credits, we get to see you in a car or in your car crash with a bloody head. You've been dead the entire time.
Yeah.
So pretty bleak.
Yeah. And this has all been a Jacob's Ladder occurrence in Elk Creek Bridge kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the bad plus ending where you save Sybil, but you don't save Kaufman. You still fight the incubator. So, there is no hope for Cheryl even being reincarnated. But instead of just falling to your knees, Sybil is here and is like, hey, you need to go, you need to go on and live, and you escape.
And then there is the UFO ending,
the joke ending.
Starting this series thing. You get this little doodad in New Game Plus, which you have to use at certain specifics to see certain specific points to see lights in the sky. And if you do this at all the points, when you get to the top of the lighthouse, you get abducted by UFOs.
Yep.
You get these still scenes. It's very funny. They abduct Harry and he says, sorry, let me ask you, seen a little girl around here? Short black hair. Very funny.
Yep.
Yeah. And you get zapped and that's the end of you.
Yeah. And the credits are presented in a Star Wars crawl style, which is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cute.
Yeah, with the UFO ending and the outtake thing, yes, it is tonally very confusing. I'm also very happy that they're willing to be super goofy and that they made the joke ending a tradition. The dog ending. The only misstep with the joke endings is there are certain games, I believe it is Homecoming, where you can get the joke ending on accident your first time through. So,
boy.
So that might be the ending that you experience first. And you might just think, oh, that's the ending of the game, huh?
I in a general sense, I think that it is a bad idea to make understanding your game reliant on playing it multiple times.
Yeah.
That's a personal bugbear of mine, and I'm putting this in my evidence pile. Or what you just said, my
Silent Hill Homecoming. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that you could get the joke ending and think that's what it is. I don't think it is a safe bet or a safe thing for developers to be like, no, people will play it multiple times. Of course they will.
Nope. What you're counting on is that they will feel motivated by the joke non-ending that they got, as opposed to what feels more likely, which is they would feel insulted and feel like their time was wasted and then put the game away and never come back to it. Yeah.
And that's the end of the game. That's Silent Hill 1.
Yeah. Started a beloved, very strange series. Some of my favorite games in the entire world in this series. You said you're saying goodbye to this. I can see myself coming back to this every 3 to 5 years for as long as I still have the desire to play video games. I love this game. Warts and all. Yeah. I think that it is surprisingly playable. I feel, very modern. Insofar as, as modern as one of these classic survival horror games can be. I would recommend people play this if they're fans of anything related into the series, understanding that, this is them learning to walk before they learn to run with Silent Hill 2. Come in with your right expectations. I think there's going to be a lot here for you to enjoy.
Yeah, it's good. This is undeniably to me a good game.
Yeah.
And I do recommend everybody play it. It doesn't feel essential to me. Like people who are not into horror games, who are just into video games, I think should play Silent Hill 2.
Yes.
I think that is the essential entry in the series. And part of, like, I tried my best to separate it out, part of me looks at the Silent Hill games that I think are not quite as good in the context of a series that generally just kind of trends downwards. They never like got as good again as a Silent Hill 2. And there's something, to me, like Resident Evil, playing the first Resident Evil game, like the very first Resident Evil game. And again, I think comparisons between these games is fair game because, of course you're going to do it. Recontextualizes a lot of stuff if you've played games that take place in the mansion or reference the mansion.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 1 does that a little bit in terms of spaces. Like there's a little bit to these spaces, but the storyline started doing more interesting stuff. The kind of theme and stuff started doing interesting stuff, almost in the same way that Resident Evil games started doing different mechanical things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just one of the worst versions of it, until later when they would just, I understand some of those games are really, really dire.
Yeah.
But it's just it's interesting, but it's just not as interesting. Like it's more interesting as an artifact and as an atmosphere delivery vehicle than something more profound than that to me.
Yep.
So it's, difference between a B and an A, but like both favorable passing grades.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm really happy to have revisited it. And at the very least, we have the 3 really good Silent Hills under our belt.
Yeah. Will the PSP only entries finally make it onto the show?
No, there was only one PSP only entry. It was the Silent Hill Origins, and they brought that to PS2 eventually.
Oh, well,
your joke doesn't work.
A joke about a bad Silent Hill game. What's the worst one?
Make more accurate jokes. You
make more accurate jokes. I've seen your Twitter.
A lot of that is intentional. Sure. The worst one. I don't know. For me, I mean, like if we're going to discount, if we're not going to count Book of Memories in this, the weird Dark Alliance game that they saw fit to make in the Silent Hill universe, which is a real misguided kind of thing.
Which one's that?
Book of Memories. That's a PS. PS Vita is that one. I would say I am like least favorable maybe on the big ones are Downpour. Downpour has like stuff to recommend it. I think it's tough to say, but it would be between Origins and Homecoming, and it depends on the day. I think that those are real dire.
Yeah. I know that you liked Shattered Memories more than me. The one thing I kept when I was trying to remember thinking about Shattered Memories during this, I couldn't remember the name of it, and I kept calling it Silent Hill: The Frozen Throne, which is a funny idea for a crossover. But yeah, this is undeniably good and worth your time and super important.
Yep.
So, thank you, Cassie.
Thank you, Cassie.
If you have anything to say about Silent Hill 1, Echo, or Resident Evil 8. Hit us up by October 15th at Duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yep. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please separate them into multiple responses. That is the deadline for October's games. The deadline for November's games is November the 15th. And those games are Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, because they folded 1 into 2. Stardew Valley, and the premium one is StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty.
Yes. Yeah. And we appreciate you. Then we got the WRPG coming up, and then it's a brand new year.
It is.
Really excited for that. Yeah. We got cool stuff on the slate.
We do.
We will be talking, doing some kind of announcement of Duckstream at some point. So keep an eye out for that. And just because a couple of people have asked, I wanted to put in the admin. No live shows this year. We're still avoiding that Delta.
Yeah.
So
no, I have family that is infected with COVID right now, and I do not wish to be a further vector for anything else. So,
yes,
yeah,
and I think that's about it. Patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv, ratings, reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any final bits?
Yeah. I mean, I would say until next time, watch out for Fear of Blood.